Boom.
That's pretty fucking ninja.
Yeah, Peter from Gonna Go For It did that intro for me.
Yeah. Now, I still got my intro. I haven't used it yet.
Well, dang, what's keeping you?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. It screams pretentiousness.
Oh, yeah, mine usually do.
It's a good intro, but if somebody says, if Smokey ever comes back at me and says you're pretentious, I'd be like, yes, look at my intro.
Well, nothing wrong with a little pretentious, I don't think.
Yeah, the freak is asking questions tonight, like Speed is a secular Buddhist, and
that's
of course,
interesting.
You,
that's
you
a
were
claim
not
and a
available.
question.
Say what?
That's a claim and a question at the same time.
Exactly. And then I mentioned, that you've called yourself that before, and then I didn't feel like I clarified it enough for him, so I clarified it for him. Whoops, sorry about that.
Okay, I'm trying to find the talks. Let's see. We're Scott Duke. Why Buddhist? Let's see. Why not Buddhist? Yeah. Icarus. Yeah, why not Buddhist?
And then to clarify the kind of Buddhism you have, I clarified that for him. You can see that on the screen.
Think of the Speed. Speed is a couple of tick marks above my name is Earl. Thank you.
And to further clarify,
that clears it up, I think.
Well, I think Peter clears it up a little more.
Does he? Let's see. Is it further down?
Well, you can just look at the screen, Speed. I'm really helping you out here.
Oh.
Dave.
Holy shit. I can see the stuff that's going on the stream. Why didn't you guys tell me about this before? This feature. This is amazing.
The comments?
Yeah. Speed is easily fooled, just like Earl and Randy. Yep.
So he thinks you're actually only maybe one tick mark above my name is Earl. I gave you 2 tick marks at least.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Anyway, let's see. What were we talking? We were just talking about something before we went live.
Naturalism of some sort.
Oh, no, we were talking about
synchronicity.
How synchronicity is the low-hanging fruit in the universe. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, we are a kind of creature with a huge fucking brain with tons of neurons and neural connections. And the whole purpose of that brain is finding patterns through time and seeing patterns in everything. And the universe happens to be constructed in such a way on this planet Earth, because of the temperature range that we live in, that it has just gazillions of patterns out there, right, for us to grab. So it's a low-hanging fruit in the universe. If you want to find synchronicity, all you have to do is open your eyes and start looking for a pattern, and you will find them everywhere.
Yeah,
you'll find them in the clouds. You'll find them everywhere. And people say they don't exist. Fuck, they don't. They do exist. Those patterns are actually there, and they're synchronous with what is going on in your life and your brain. So that's how human beings find meaning. That is just essentially the epitome of meaning. Human beings are meaning machines.
Yeah, there's a way you can actually. Yeah, I think there's a way you could actually. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that in any way, shape, or form. I think it's funny. I saw Midnight asked you, you let Jay in, as though I requested to come in. I was invited.
Let's see.
I like that. I like what one can infer from that question. You let Jay in?
No,
I know he doesn't mean it. No, he doesn't mean it that way. It's just fun. It's just fun to play with that.
Well, I just talked to him on the phone, and I said I was only going to let a certain few people in tonight. That I was going to be, and not only that, but I'm going to be really booty. I'm really into the booty. So I will
the booty or the booting.
Booting.
He's in a booty mood, though.
I'm in a booting mood. I will boot anybody who displeases me tonight. I mean, I'm going to boot them like they were Danny. I'm going to boot them like a Danny.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
You and Danny, you guys are funny. But Yeah, the conversation we were so you also brought up you wanted to talk about natural and supernatural.
Right.
What's this? What draws this conversation to mind, or that
Well,
topic to mind, I should say?
well, I heard Danny last night say the mind is natural, or the mind isn't natural. When he was talking to Matt Dillahunty, he just automatically said, "Well, the mind isn't natural because Matt Dillahunty asked for a non-natural thing, right?"
Oh, really? What show was this on?
That's
that
what
was on Atheist Experience. Danny called in
Today?
last November.
Oh, that was an old call in. Okay.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it depends because, like, a lot of times when somebody says in nature, I ask them to clarify if they mean nature as in all of the reality that we share in, and if they say yes, then I'd be like, okay, if the mind is part of that reality that we share in, then it's natural because it's part of
Yeah.
nature. So, yeah, I think that's more of a where you have to get into the nuance of what someone means by natural.
Now, once Danny made the case that for naturalism, basically everything is natural, so natural doesn't have a meaning, right?
Just like
But-
everything is beautiful in its own way.
Yeah,
So-
and yeah,
nothing's
the way we
beautiful.
colloquially, yeah, the way that most people, I'm pretty sure if you ask most people off the street, what they think natural is, it'd be like tomatoes are natural, water's natural, that kind of stuff. What we refer to as, like, when we look at foods and things from the earth as being natural. Whereas, TVs, cars, stuff like that, people would say, oh, those aren't natural. They're made from things derived from nature, but not natural.
right.
But philosophically, you could just say the cars and everything that makes up cars is just as quote unquote natural as the things that exist in the world of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about 22 and I was ripped on acid and I was walking out through the woods and there on a stump sat a perfect Coca-Cola can that somebody had left out in the woods, right? And I had this vision and I started thinking for the first time, that fucking thing's natural too, because we are. Right?
Yeah, it all depends on the word. Hey, do you mind if I send this link to Nicola? No direction.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
That'd be good.
In case
anyway,
he wants to join. I'm not asking him to join, just in case he wants to. Sometimes his feedback on philosophy is obviously, I ask him for philosophical, ask him all sorts of questions on philosophical topics because he's got a bachelor's degree in that shit. He's still very knowledgeable in those concepts. So,
yeah, this so this is an inquiry into what is meant by supernatural. So anyway, the hippies and the got milk generation came up with organic foods and non-natural things, right? So I want natural food, and then there's non-natural food, and what they meant is this human made, right? So they were talking about something. They were talking about something with human agency, right? So we have human agency. But now when people talk about supernatural, what the fuck are they talking about? What my question is, can you think of anything, any supernatural idea that it does not involve an agency? Like, okay, a ghost would be an agency, right? The ghost has, some sort of, he can do things.
It depends. That's on a gradient. Some ghosts practically have no agency. They're just there in
Zombie
a certain
ghosts?
area.
Zombie ghosts?
Kind of like, yeah. Or they're just
never heard of. I've never heard of. Never heard of zombie ghosts.
Yeah, because they want ghost brains.
So, can you think of anything though? Some supernatural thing, right? That doesn't involve human mind type agency, right? Because and we can unpack agency a little bit.
Well, I had this conversation with someone a couple weeks ago, with a couple people on Discord, and the way that they were appealing to the supernatural was by going to what I would say is going to the natural. They were bringing up the watchmaker argument, and then I just changed it from watches to cars to make it more easy. And I was like, you're looking at the tree and then you're looking at the car. Well, we made the car, so therefore the tree must be made, but we don't know who made the tree, therefore God kind of conclusion. And somebody was basically saying, well, I don't see a problem with that. I'm like, do you have examples of gods making trees?
Right.
And then they were like, what? And then it didn't get nasty or anything, but it was interesting how the person I was talking to was appealing to the supernatural through what he observes in nature. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I hit them with that too. What they're talking about is human-like agency in some of their being that they've imagined, and they have never seen an example of an agent making a tree or making life or making a cell or making anything. What they have seen examples of is humans making a lot of shit, right? So when you think about it, okay, we're humans, and one of the really important things that is missed in philosophy of the mind is that our minds would not be anything if it weren't for the fact that we can move our bodies according to what we want to do in our mind. Like when I grab a cup, the cup comes to me, right? So I'm doing a bodily action at the same time that I'm doing some mental action, right? Now I can sit here and imagine grabbing the cup and nothing happens, but that is just a reproduction of my having grabbed cups a million times in my life. Okay.
Sure.
So and that's called embodied mind. That's the idea that mind is very much about, embodiment, that there has to be embodiment, that sort of thing.
Well,
but anyway, so what I wanted to get to is when people
about mentioning this, Chin. Hey, just one quick question, Speed, just a little administrative thing. Do you ever look at the screen?
No.
Okay, then I'll take Icarus proposed a supernatural thing that doesn't have agency, and I wondered if you thought karma fit into that.
Okay, do you ever look at the screen, Scott?
Oh, you did write down. I'm sorry, I was just gazing into Jason Torn's chin.
Fucking boomer.
It distracted me.
Yeah, okay, so karma could be considered something that's a non-agency that basically somehow you get paid back. So that would be like, but still, there's a bit of accounting going on there, right? What kind of creature does the accounting, or what kind of the universe basically accounts for how much bad you've done in life?
Well, if you don't have an ultimate accounting, I was going to go to a DD. I was going to attempt a DD, but I'm not going to do that.
Oh, I see. Okay. Don't do it.
Yeah, you have to warm up before pulling a DD.
Yeah.
Remember,
strain something.
I'm really booty.
You're boot happy. Yeah.
I'm all booty. Yeah, I'm booty. Yeah. Anyway, so but karma, that is a good example. That is almost something where you could imagine there's not an agency, but there's a law of the universe. That basically, the more bad you put out, the more bad you get, that sort of thing. So karma's there's something interesting about karma that people miss. Like when I was a little kid and I would walk downtown in Mountain Iron, Minnesota, people like back in that day, you didn't get arrested for actually saying hi to a little kid or talking to him, that sort of thing, right? Oh shit!
Because people were so naive.
Yeah, well,
back in the good old
I guess
days.
so. I don't know. It was just safer, like if you did something wrong, if you littered, a bunch of adults would come up and yell at you about it, hey, pick that up, kid, that sort of. But anyway, when I would run into a set of adults who didn't know me, and I didn't know them.
Yeah, nowadays if they do that, the kid is getting their parents to file a suit with a suit with the ACLU.
Exactly. Right. Anyway, the first thing that these adults would ask me is, whose kid are you? Who's your dad? And I tell them, well, it's Charlie, and they'd, oh yeah, okay, you fuckers, and like, so you got judged based on what family you belong
what's your family? Oh yeah. And
that was sort of a weird kind of, a weird take on karma, that sort of thing.
Well,
and then then when I went to gym class and they said, oh, so your brother was Larry, eh? It's like, yep. I was in trouble from then on.
Yeah,
that was karma.
Yeah, that's karma.
Kind of like it. Yeah, that is karma.
Oh, that's kind of gay.
Yeah, it is. But
sorry.
Well, anyway,
It's like all the crap that we got from our hometown. Are you so and so's? Are you related to so and so? Come to find out, I had a particular cousin who was well known for getting kicked out of bars.
Yeah.
So yeah, are you related to this guy? Are you related to this guy? I've never met him.
Well, there.
Yes, I am. I've never met him.
I don't know how karma it is. I don't know how Eastern mysticism it is, but just in the South, there has always been that idea of, bad blood.
Yeah, the bad
some
apples.
people have bad blood, some people have good blood. If you're related to, and it seemed to coexist along the same stratum as economic class. But there were just people with bad blood, people who have just ain't no good. Now, even among the higher classes, there would be some that were no good and others that were good families.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that when my wife and I lived down in Asheboro. There was two prominent family names down there in that area, Pew and another one. And it was kind of interesting. Like one name was associated with the lower class, and the other name was associated with the titans of industry for that area, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. And then there was the kind of the feuds that happened in between them. Yeah.
But given the fact that there's a real strong caste system in the places where Hinduism and Buddhism generated, then grew up, then I'm sure some of the same principles are being used.
Yeah, forget all that fucking Indian shit.
Forget it?
Yeah, forget that shit. Anyway, forget that.
There goes a swath of history.
Just wipe it out.
Just cut it out.
But isn't it amazing that those people that asked, or you related to so and so, how much they knew about DNA? Right? That your genes have an effect. You are a bit like your relatives.
The nature versus nurture argument comes
there's
forth.
the threat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is one dichotomy that we should never say out loud again.
Oh, intuition. Oh, okay. So DeFreak is bringing up, I've heard this argument before, or that claim before. Intuition is kind of supernatural.
Yeah. Okay, we can unpack that.
I had a conversation with who was it? Conservative Christian, Jesse. She used to frequent Praise's channel before he fell back into Smokey's good graces.
Yeah.
And we had one of our first conversations was intuition was kind of like her evidence for why there was a God. And I'm like,
oh my God,
really? Babies don't have it?
Yeah.
It's kind
intuition
of seems to be, to me, it's more of a developed thing over time based on knowing and believing.
Intuition is a mathematical system for summing information behind the scenes in a very, very fuzzy way. So that if you have a lot of, like, the reason that people are conservative Republicans, okay, and I used to be, is that I had all of these little tiny one-off little ideas floating around in my head. And when I summed them up, when I did the sum operation on all of these little ideas, I came up with, I'm a Republican. Okay. Yeah. That's intuition. Basically, you walk into the forest and a bird shits on your head, and the next time you go in the forest, you get hit with a thorn. The next time you get in the forest, a fucking bear rips your arm off. Well, from then on, you're not going to like that part of the forest, and you're going to have an intuitive feel for that.
Yeah.
And then if you go to another part of the forest that looks like that part of the forest, it's like, I don't like this place. Right?
Yeah, because she used the example of, like, you getting a feeling, you're standing on the corner, you get a feeling that somebody might swerve and hit you, and then come to find out you step out of the way and you move people out of the way. And just as you do that, a car, just jumps the curb where you guys would have been standing. Like, that's an example of intuition that comes from God. I'm like, if you were a little kid and you didn't know what cars could jump curbs, you wouldn't have had that feeling. Something was, for some reason, you got a bad feeling because you had seen that happen before. Somewhere along the line.
It's rainy and you just kind of, without really realizing it, notice how oily the road looks,
Yeah.
And
I just
so that kind of makes you want to
I just thought I thought it was funny that Immutable wrote Jesse, eh? Oh dear God.
And that goes back to what we were talking about with synchronicity being the low-hanging fruit in the universe, because your intuition is basically reading that synchronicity out of really complex patterns. And that's just how neural nets work. And your mind is one really fucking cool neural net combined with a whole lot of other machinery.
Yeah.
And you can get a really good impression. But yet if somebody asks you, well, why did you jump out of the way? It's like, I don't know. I just had a feeling. A feeling.
Yeah,
because
one of those. One of a good book that really illustrates what you're talking about, I think, is that book, Behave, that I was talking about a while back. Still working on that. That's a thick book.
Who's it by? What's it about again?
Behave. It's Robert Sapolsky. He's a neurochemist. He's or neurobiologist. But yeah, it's it's really good. He talks about like how we come to make decisions like right now and what things were going on in our bodies 5 minutes ago, 15 minutes ago, a day ago, all that led to these decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah, and that's how prayer works. Basically, when you pray, what you're doing is you're holding something constant in your mind long enough to affect your hippocampus, right? Which is this little memory recorder that if you hold something in your mind for more than 30 seconds, it will stick around for the next few hours, sometimes the next day. And so you come up with a problem and you put it in your mind, and then you walk around in the world and you seem to have forgotten about it. But in your hippocampus, you've got this, God, I wish this thing would quit being so goddamn jumpy. You've got this
it's feeling booty today too.
Feeling booty. You've got this little index card system in your hippocampus, right? That keeps track of what happens.
That looks like a mangled penis, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. How's that? Oh, I got it backwards.
Either that or something that was fished out of the bottom of the ocean.
I'm feeling booty again. Just feeling booty.
What are you doing? Why are you sitting on my cord?
It's a fucking hippocampus, okay? Anyway, so this is the hippocampus, and as you go through your day, and let me tell you what squirrels do first. So as a squirrel or a rat goes through a room,
it's just interesting because that looked like a penis, and now we're going into something that collects nuts. Sorry. Go ahead. Where's that?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay. So as the squirrel or the rat goes through the maze, basically there is a map that they can look at in neurons. That actually. Hi, Luke. Okay, hey. This map actually they can actually look at this part of your brain and they can tell what part of the maze the rat is thinking about or what part of the maze he's in. And now this hippocampus, so it works with space, right? So squirrels developed this massive brain to tell them where their nuts were, where they buried their nuts, right? And then humans commandeered this same thing so that, we lost Jay? What?
I think we're having technical difficulties with Jay.
Put Jay back. Okay. So anyway, squirrels basically built this structure to find out where their nuts were, and primates commandeered it to map time so that we could map our day. So that when you start, like if you start thinking about what did I do yesterday, you'll find one index card, right? You'll have one thing that stands out. And then you'll think, okay, I was at Wendy's, and then I went to the post office, and then I went here, and you put it together in a sequence, right? Well, this whole thing, when you dream, ends up being cast onto your cortex while you're dreaming, and it modifies your long-term cortex. So anything that is really salient will be learned. And your mind just keeps accumulating this information on every living moment of your life, every conscious moment, and it sorts it on every dreaming moment. And it's really kind of a cool system. But we map time and space the same way.
I really wish my brain didn't dream. It's really wish it would do a better job organizing this, because some of those dreams just don't make any fucking sense.
I wish I could just get a little bit of that stuff they give you before surgery. that just totally blanks you out, and then you wake up and you don't remember dreams or anything. You just wake up.
I can do that with a half a bottle of scotch, but I don't recommend that daily.
Right.
So, Luke, we have Mr. J here, and Jason Torn, and Scott, who's Old Man Atheism, who you've met.
Yeah,
Hi,
hi, Luke. Nice to meet you, but I've got to go because I hear the whip cracking in the background. So,
I was going to boot you anyway.
Oh,
yeah, you were pissing me off, Jay.
I'm feeling booted.
All right. No.
No, Jay, thanks for
Yeah,
for
really was
coming in.
nice.
Yeah,
It was nice having you here.
Yeah, too bad your brother. Too bad your brother doesn't have the decency to show up.
Really?
Because I sent him a link too.
Oh, well, it's like classic Sunday movie night for them.
Oh.
Yeah, my probably, considering it's October, my little brother's they're probably going through some old horror movies and stuff. They sometimes do that
Well,
on
why
the
don't you
weekend.
give us his address and we'll all go over to his place and
No,
and no, okay.
not a good idea.
Not a good idea. Okay.
Okay. So, Luke, did you like our thumbnail?
You mean, sorry, which thumbnail?
The lions and the Christians.
Oh. By the way, I wanted to say something about what you were talking about just now, because there is a 1932, let's see, Edward Chase Tolman did work with rats and mazes.
Edward Chase Tolman?
Yes, it's a 1932 book called Purposive Behavior in Animals and Men. And he observed, was doing this rat experiment thing, and he observed that they sort of made incremental progress for a while, but then the rats would pause. Like they would not go through the maze right away. And then after their pause, they would have a jump in maze performance. And he got mocked by the behaviorists who said, "You're leaving the mouse or the rat lost in thought." But there's a question as to, were the rats doing some sort of analysis, like little rat level path analysis, to optimize the thought? And it sounds like the research that you're talking about actually mapped out brain stuff that could see if you could corroborate his results or something like that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure he was ahead of his time. So,
anyway.
yeah, they've been able to watch rats. I think dream, and they actually went through the maze. They could actually see like one section and then the next section light up, and it actually, the map of the neurons matched the maze, the map itself. It's called architectonic mapping of the brain. Like your visual field, for instance, is on the back of your head in the occipital lobe. And there is an exact map of the visual field from your retina to the back of your brain. So they can actually observe these neurons and they can tell what you're seeing. Basically, there's it's a pretty weak pattern. And of course, it's like a folded pizza. You have to unfold the pizza, with some computer program.
That's cool.
And then you can see an actual mapping of the retina, and that's called architectonic. That is a word that not too many people use, but I love it.
Hey, Speed, Mr. Peterson is wanting you to notice his side chats.
I can't see anything. I'm busy.
Okay.
Anyway. Let's see.
I'm glad you talked about folding up pizza, because it's bringing images of
a pizza.
When you have a pizza slice that's just a little too large, and you have to kind of fold it a little to get it in your mouth.
Well,
that's
anyway,
heaven.
Your brain, including your thalamus, I think you have like 12 of these visual maps in your brain in different spots, and they're laid out pretty much like your visual, like the receptors on your retina. So they're laid out the same, and they can actually see all these different maps. And when it goes into your brain, it splits up and sends a stream here and a stream there, and it goes through your thalamus through something called the lateral geniculate nucleus, goes to the back of your brain, and then comes all the way through your brain to the front, along the temporal lobe and there's another pathway over the top of your brain, and it all puts together your visual universe, basically. And they have mapped the visual system with incredible detail. There's about 140 modules involved in mapping your visual system, but that's pretty cool.
Cool.
But yep. So Luke, you're a Christian.
Yep, one of those.
Have you noticed that Andrew Cumming is throwing us a syllogism?
Where's Andrew? Did he get it from Otangelo?
I think he got it from somewhere else, but he's adapted it.
These genes are found in almost all living species, such as cytochrome C. These genes all have pretty much the same essential functions in each respective species. Therefore,
no. Then you go to number 2.
Okay, did I miss one?
Sorry, that was 3.
Okay, I missed one. Okay,
Here's number 2.
Okay. Virtually the same DNA sequence in all these species. They have no correlation with individual species environments.
And I'm sure he has all the papers to back it up.
Let's go to 3. Okay. Premise 3. Silent mutations of these genes are possible which would not alter their essential function, i.e. there are many possible sequences that could give these functions. We're waiting for 4 and the conclusion.
Well, y'all keep talking. I'll just flash them up there as they come.
Okay. That'd be good enough. So we were kicking around what non-natural or supernatural might mean. And for somebody like me who's a naturalist, I believe that everything is natural and there's nothing outside of that category. And I can't imagine what the hell people mean by supernatural or non-natural. So 2 different things, not natural and supernatural. And I can't imagine. I would imagine. Go ahead.
I'm actually using 2 different computers, one with the video, one with other stuff. I can probably leave comments here somehow by joining from the other computer without a video. I have a link to drop. Let's see what happens.
Okay, so you can share a screen on StreamYard, you know?
Yeah, it's just I'm using my wife's laptop because mine died for video. So anyway, the thing I was going to drop was definition of natural is key here. You can make it very, very articulate, say like Galileo's idealized particles. In the Essayer, he talks about these idealized particles that he thinks are the real qualities of reality, and everything else is sort of less real. And you can flip forward to, by the way, that created the whole problem with action at a distance that Newton and such really hated. Newton hated the fact that his mathematics were action at a distance, because everyone there wanted, not everyone, but a big chunk of people wanted billiard ball physics. And so action at a distance, there's nothing in between, it's magic.
Right.
Now that was solved by positing the gravitational field. But you have a recapitulation of it almost with Einstein and spooky action at a distance, which is superluminal causation, basically. Superluminal transmission of information. And so Einstein came up with the Epr paradox, which was supposed to demonstrate that quantum mechanics had a problem. But maximal violation of Bell inequalities showed that actually quantum mechanics is really weird. And so when you see entanglement and like the delayed choice quantum eraser and all that stuff, there's the possibility that there's causation faster than the speed of light, and that offends our sensibilities. And that's why Einstein said God does not play dice, because he insisted that reality had to work his way. So the more you ratchet down your definition of nature or natural, the more possibilities there are that your desires or thoughts about how reality is structured can get blown to smithereens by new data, right? The more fuzzy you make the term natural, the less there is to even have a supernatural category.
Okay.
So there's a problem here of definitions and how fuzzy they are. Then the more fuzzy, the less falsifiable they are.
Okay. But regularity. So we see regularity in all of these things, right? So we're able to find spooky action at a distance, and we can find it presumably everywhere. So there is regularity.
So by the way, just to Andrew Cumming, I didn't claim that the EPR experiments showed that causation happens faster than light. In fact, there's ways to do the theory such there's no faster than light causation because there are multiple different interpretations. If you want to see true causation faster than the speed of light, you need to look at quantum non-equilibrium, which comes out of taking Bohmian physics and allowing the Born postulate, the Born rule, to become a hypothesis that can be violated. And then you can get sub-Heisenberg measurement and faster than the speed of light causation. But there are lots of ways to restructure the physics such that it's not faster than the speed of light. For example, multiple worlds theory, but we could talk about that if we want. Point being, regularity, what does it mean? For Einstein, regularity meant no causation that's faster than the speed of light.
Okay, but why? Why? If you have causation that's faster than the speed of light and it's regular, it's a physical phenomena that we figured out. As long as it's regular, it's regular. It doesn't matter if it violates your sense of the speed of light or the constancy of the speed of light, right? So if we discover that there is spooky action at a distance, then that is a law of nature, and we're going to discover that everywhere. We're not going to just discover that once. I mean, it would be, but that is kind of what's meant by supernatural, right? Like a one-off sort of thing.
Wait, I'm just curious, like, just Luke, just very basically, what's your thoughts on the term supernatural? When somebody says supernatural to you, what comes to mind?
I actually generally don't know, because I have sympathies for regularity, right? And so supernatural is like not regular. But then again, is every human being supernatural since there's never a same human being just like that? That's kind of weird. And so are human beings regular? That's
but you got a head, Luke. I got a head. You got hands. I got a hands, right?
There's all kinds of non-regular things based on stochasticity, et cetera, that like that you probably would not term regular, but you would consider part of the naturalistic system.
But see, then I don't know what it would like. Why would, given sort of the Bible, why would God want to show up in a quote non-regular way? Right? Why is that even something God would want to do based on everything there? Because
fair enough. Yeah.
Well, the resurrection.
If you wanted to say, if you have an argument that says God is within the natural world, God like that. God is not supernatural. That God is not outside of the natural world. Then that's a different question. That's a different situation.
I wouldn't argue that. The question is, why would it be good for any of God's purposes or any of our purposes for God to violate quote regularity? Right? Why would that be good?
Well,
the
resurrection wasn't,
So what would happen if we found out that nature can support resurrection? Like,
okay.
We
haven't.
It is quite possible that we only know 0.0001% of what nature is capable of doing.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure that resurrecting a 3-day-old body is not a possibility at all. Because
I'm willing to say there might be a 0.000001 chance that in a galaxy far, far away there's a Lazarus pit.
I mean, there's I always forget who says it. It's either Galileo, one of these guys, I can't remember, who said, like, I don't believe in intelligence and rational thought, and I don't believe in a God that created intelligence and rational thought and intended us to forego their use. So is that kind of is that concept something that you, Luke, that's your perspective, that like God gave us rational thought and intelligence, and he expects us to use that to and he wouldn't create things that are outside of those facets. That I don't know. I don't know if I'm articulating this correctly. I'm trying to get to this issue of supernatural aspects.
Is that us not using those and like God wanting to have things work differently is completely incompatible with how hands-off God is, even in the Old Testament. Yeah. He's very hands-off in the scheme of things, and so. Either he's incompetent at being the totalitarian, authoritarian dictator that he's supposed to be, that a lot of Christians teach God to be, or that's not ever what he was trying to do, right? And if you say that's not ever what he was trying to do, he's trying to empower humans, then it gets directly toward, I think, what you were saying of using your brain.
How much of the hands-on miracle stuff do you believe going backwards, like the flood?
I mean, so there's a trick with the first 11 chapters, and that there are very obvious polemic against alternative myths that were going on at the time. And I could go into that if you want. So I'm pretty tenuous with those. I just don't think trying to understand it in terms of let's calculate the number of inches per hour coming down in the flood. Oh no, that would have pummeled the earth to smithereens, right? You can actually do the calculation, and Noah's Ark would have been just destroyed.
Right, right.
But that's not how that's not the purpose of it, as far as I can tell. Like that's
Okay.
It's a really weird way to understand it. It'd be like trying to analyze the physics behind Shakespeare. Shakespeare tells you a lot of really important facts about human nature, I think. Like really important. Like the fact that we don't understand those is one of the reasons that we have such political chaos right now. So super ultra important. But trying to physics analysis of it, not very helpful.
So far, you're giving me a Buddhist reading of the Bible that it's a story that explains something about human nature, but it didn't really actually physically in the universe happen at a particular time in history.
Oh, I'm actually happy with all the other miracles actually happening because I don't believe that miracle power is evidence that someone is good and should be trusted.
Is a miracle something that is outside of our natural explanations, or is it only that we just haven't discovered, we don't have the scientific know-how to understand how Jesus walked on water, or what if that was, if you could say, maybe that's not a miracle, but whatever. Like if we took a miracle, we're like, I don't know, this is a miracle. Is the thought that one day we will be able to understand how that miracle occurred scientifically?
Maybe I wouldn't be. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm just curious. I was just curious about your thoughts on that.
One cool function of miracles is to convince us that reality is far more awesome than we thought it was, and challenge us to go understand it at that depth and intensity. Okay. Because honestly, I see very few people who are interested in understanding reality with the kind of intensity that I feel called to. I'm married to a scientist. A lot of what I'm talking about is probably a little bit more social sciences and how to support scientists. Like I'm mentoring a hydrogeologist, and she doesn't have this sort of technical support to do very basic stuff. And it's pathetic. And it's a breakdown of how complex things are. And we're not supporting our scientists. We're not serving them and helping them do the best jobs they are. And so we're being pathetic at the outcome. And oh, by the way, hydrogeologists, we're having drought problems. We're having to drill wells deeper and deeper into the ground. We should be supporting these scientists with all our might and all our ingenuity, and guess what? We're not. And that's a big problem in my view.
Totally. Yeah.
And we
should be supporting NASA with all our ingenuity and all our might as well.
You mean to escape this planet as everyone screws it up?
NASA, yeah, they give them all the money. They did such a great job, and then we took all their money away. Those bastards. But anyway,
it just feels like you slipped out of a whole lot of stuff there.
Yeah, yes. I'm not really okay with all those other miracles happening either. So
I mean, it does create. I mean, and just we're just having a conversation. No, this isn't a debate or anything like that. But like, it does create somewhat of an interesting. I don't want to say like contradiction, but that if you say, I think that like that the things that God does, he does them in such a way that are not in a violation of the laws of nature and of science. It's just that we don't have the knowledge to understand that. And one day we will. Then the question is what God does like I don't want to use the word supernatural. I'm trying to come up with another word. Like, is what God does, like he has this capacity to do these things that are beyond the capability of humans to understand, given his omnipotence and omnipresence, etc. And if he is that kind of being that has the ability to step outside of the natural world, and he can do things that are unexplainable, then that seems to be a contradiction in those two topics. I
mean,
so,
parents,
I'm not.
Yeah, parents
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Inexplicable to their kids, and it's not helpful for their kids growing up and learning to make it on their own in the world. Or parents can be understandable to their kids, so they have the power to do both, but hopefully they generally do the understandable option. And so that's how I view God's omnipotence.
Hey, just a real quick, short question for you, Luke. What is Luke?
Did I answer that right? I said you're an odd variety of Christian.
Yeah, no, you have a nice demeanor of discussing these topics, so that's really it's refreshing.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that the people, I don't know how many people here used to be Christians or been burned by Christianity. Usually the people who like to talk about this stuff have some sort of interesting history. And I generally find that you should pay attention to criticisms rather than try and blow them off, because usually they have good reasons for being pissed off at Christianity. And in my experience, I mean, I've spent tens of thousands of hours talking to atheists, and they have really good criticisms. I don't think the criticisms accomplish what they think they do, but they do criticize a wide swath of Christianity very well.
Well, you know, with me, it was just a case of criticism or not. I no longer have a belief. You know, I don't know. Present to me a rational syllogism, I'll consider it. But even if I'm not rationally, I may not be able to do anything but conclude, you know, what any given syllogism says. But until I have a belief, you know, what do I do?
I don't. But I don't have a rational syllogism that you exist. Like, that's a weird way to come to a belief. I know that it's common to have rational arguments, but rational arguments are like abstract contact. And I think creation is actually good. Like Genesis 1 ends with, it's very good. And so the Greek way of thinking is concepts and contemplating the form of the good and like detaching from reality. The Jewish mindset is very much thinking reality is good. And so then you would want to have contact with God be through experience, not just logic.
Well, Scott, I mean, like, you've never met probably Scott in person, and you maybe you've never seen Scott, but you know that people go on YouTube and video, and that there are a lot, and that you probably physically know people that have done that. You've done that. You have these experiences that would suggest that Scott's actually a real person, you know. But what evidence or like what experiences do you have that God is real? I'm sure that you do have those experiences that would suggest to you that God is real. I just think that experience about Scott and the experience about God are drastically different in terms of evaluating those pieces of evidence.
Yep.
So,
my two religious experiences are very weird and wouldn't at all work. Like, one is that learning is like diagonalization, which I described. I actually said both of these on, I think, the last interview. The other is that the Pentecostals' idea that anyone who doesn't speak in tongues is a second-class Christian is absolutely and utterly wrong. That's my only like real religious experience that has any analytic content. The biggest thing that convinces me is that the analysis of human sociology and psychology, including political science and such, that Scripture has is far better than anything that humans have produced before or since. And it's exactly the thing that we need most to deal with the problems that are plague us in this world. And I'll give you just one example. I think one of the biggest problems with the West right now is most people in the West are domesticated little peons who don't understand how things work. And they're essentially, they have as little information as slaves and servants would have back in the day of how things really work. Go to Washington, D.C., and you see some things happen. Can you give an account for it that's causally efficacious?
Right.
We have far too little understanding of the world around us, and that cannot possibly end well. And one of the big themes throughout the Bible is to actually understand how social reality works and not tell yourself lies and engage in self-deception.
Yeah.
And I have not seen anywhere the kind of deep penetrating analysis that I can get out of Scripture. And to me, that indicates that we got dropped on us through humans and them contributing the critical information we need that we're not willing to figure out on our own, even with all the internet and everything that we have. So that's the kind of thing a good God would do, is drop that on us.
If he existed.
If he existed.
Yeah. But does it matter? Okay. So you see my little diagram here. Being Buddhist is being Christian is a subset of being Buddhist.
I disagree, but go ahead.
Okay, but anyway, so being Buddhist is basically subscribing to a certain set of principles that I think are in keeping with the kind of organism we are, right? And being Christian, as you've described it, you have this book, and it has all of this information in it about these layers of social structures, written by obviously some pretty brilliant poets back in the day, right? But believing in an actual existence of some agent out here, this God guy, okay, I want to make him frowny because he's kind of a bitch, but so this God guy out here, basically that's setting all of this up. That would be the dogmatic part of being a Christian, right? And a Buddhist can adopt that. A Buddhist could say, okay, I'm going to believe in that, and I've done it. I did it when I was 16 for a summer, and then we cast it aside like a loose-fitting cloak that we no longer needed. In September, we got rid of it, right? So anyway, so none of what you've told me requires the dogmatic part of believing that this thing is an actual thing somewhere. Like, do you really need to believe this is an actual thing somewhere to believe that that book gives you information that you can use? Okay. I mean, how much do you need? Like, I believe this is a dichotomy, belief versus faith. So if you have faith, you have it without belief. So faith is when you fall backwards and you believe that you're going to be caught, okay? Or you feel that you're going to be caught, right? Okay. Belief is when you know you set some cushions back there, but faith is a little bit different. It's a different kind of living. It's living with uncertainty. It's living without dogma. It's living without knowing. It's living without any belief. So if you have total faith, and you seem like you're pretty close to it, you're closer than most Christians I talk to. You don't need the dogma, and you don't need to adhere to the dogma. I don't know why why I would love to have you admit that, but I don't know, because that's a little bit dogmatic itself. But anyway,
there is a bit of a pattern of freedom from the law in the New Testament, but law is not quite the same as dogma.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's some sense in which people need a scaffolding in order to become an individual who will end up being able to critically analyze things, right?
Yeah.
And so dogma sounds a little bit like the scaffolding.
Well, being dogmatic would be not scaffolding is fine. You know, building scaffolding to support what you're doing. You know, building some sort of reason, but building it all the way down to the point where, like a young Earth creationist who believes that the Earth is 6,000 years old, there was a big flood, so the fountains of the deep cracked the Earth open like an egg, somehow did not melt the Earth. Radiometric dating is wrong. All that bullshit, right? Those are all believing in events that you absolutely believed happened in the past, right? How much of that is necessary to your faith? You know? So believing in the flood is not necessary to your faith. Believing in what else is not necessary to your faith.
For some reason, that comes across as a weird question. Like, that's not how I believe. What I believe is that there's ways of thinking that I've tested in the world, and they've turned out well, and so I use them more and more, and they continue to turn out well.
Okay, that's a scaffold.
Which is, well, it's more like a toolbox of models and characterizations and ways of analyzing that seem to work very well. They often clash with what I'm supposed to do, but it works well for me, and the alternative that people can manage to articulate to me doesn't work well. I would be irrational to switch.
Right.
I'm totally confused. I'm sorry, guys. Like, you can keep going. I'm just like, this must be above my head. I don't understand.
No. It's
okay.
It's above your head. It's because we haven't figured out how to explain it well enough. And I think Mike and I need to do another interview or two on the whole dogma thing, because I think there's some really interesting stuff to explore there. Yeah. But like when you're trained in any discipline, you learn to think certain ways, and then you learn to spot the people who think that way and those who don't. And you can often spot them within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Right. And dogma, I think, has an ability to shape you in that way, so that you start thinking in certain ways. There's actually, I need to learn more about it, but Parmenides actually talks about, he was given a myth by a goddess in order that he would not be tempted to believe other myths. And you could understand a myth as, here are some building blocks for how reality works. And if you find the myth compelling, it's because you have building blocks. And actually, I kind of wonder if the whole discussion about rats and the pizza unfolding thing on how they represent reality might be related here. But dogma can shape how you think. Myths can shape how you think. And then if someone else likes your myth, you know that they think in similar ways to you. It's almost like liking the same sports team or the same style of play or something like that. But if you want to ask me on, say, like, do I believe Jesus existed and was the God-man and died and rose from the dead, I would say yes. And I think that's a lot more critical than, say, did the flood happen? So that might be a better question to get at if you want to get really at the dogma thing with me, instead of a young earth creationist who thinks that you have to believe in the flood and all that stuff.
Right.
But why do you believe that Jesus was resurrected? Is it through your faith and your experience religiously? Is it historic? Like you feel, you find there's compelling historical evidence? Like what leads you to that belief?
So the historical evidence is notoriously vague. It's not very helpful here. You can really make arguments both ways. And the best scholars, not the Richard Carriers, but the best scholars seem to say, yeah, it's kind of ambiguous. And so you need something else to really tip the decision. For me, it's the analysis of humanity's biggest problems and how to solve them. And Jesus is by far the best example. I'll give you just for example, Jesus exemplifies that the only solution to our problems is the most powerful, getting into the dirt and suffering with the least privileged in the world, comforting them and empowering them. Right? Where does that happen in this world, where the most powerful individuals in the world are getting in the dirt and suffering with those that they've probably oppressed?
Isn't this, but isn't, I mean, Mike might have a better perspective on this, but isn't this a common theme in religions? Like if we went back and looked at other religions, even before Christianity, aren't there other examples of individuals with tremendous amounts of power that like place themselves
Buddhism.
the lowest? Yeah, exactly.
Buddha.
Yeah.
That was the whole thing.
So that's a common like framework, which is not only like isolated to Jesus.
So if it's a common framework, I would be curious, sort of sociologically, politically, economically, how often it gets lived out. Because there's the idea is nice and pretty and wonderful, but if you can't get execution, it's like, who executes the best on that idea?
Sure.
And as far as I can tell, it's Christians. And their execution sucks, by the way. Let's just be clear. Basically, anytime Christians have accrued power in the world, they've fucked things up.
Agreed.
Right? But you have to choose from the best of the available options rather than have this pretty ideal in your head, which never works. And this opens up, I think it's just a fantastic area of study, because the humanities, the people at the Harvards and the MITs are almost always looking out first for their own class interests. And the highly educated throughout time have almost always been shills for the rich and powerful. And so it's really hard to get deep penetrating analysis of this stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, although I can understand your perspective on that. But I mean, as an academic myself, like the faculty and at many of these institutions are like have sacrificed opportunities to do what they loved and are researching and are teaching when they could actually go out and make 10 times that amount of money, so they're not like raking in, like rolling in the dough and the power.
We have to look at where are they getting funding and which projects are never funded.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not necessary. You don't have to wittingly support the extant power structure. You merely have to be carefully directed toward things which would not meaningfully threaten it. And for example, I'm being
Sure.
mentored by a sociologist who has been told to stop researching things because it was too subversive.
Sure, I totally agree with that. Like, and my wife is a psychologist, and she's a faculty academic, and she has previously done work with sickle cell anemia. And the guy that she did work with, they had a lot of work that was very controversial from a racial perspective, and they were like, don't even think about trying to go after funding for this because it will get shot down. It's too controversial. We're just not going to go after it because it's not worth it to try to spend the time on that. So yeah. I can sympathize with, like, there are powers that shape the amount of funding, and researchers certainly think about that when they think about which area they are pursuing. So I would totally agree with that.
And by the way, the best way to make the highly educated support the rich and powerful is to keep them from understanding that's what they're doing, because then they will pursue their heart's desires maximally, sacrifice all sorts of things for it, and they just won't realize that they're carefully corralled and kept away from the subversive things. And so then you can go to meta layer. How many of those understand that this is the dynamic and find ways to be subversive? And I think Slavoj Žižek is a great example of this, because he's so bombastic and whatever, but if you listen to him, he has really penetrating analyses. I was just reading one on he's critiquing Gangnam Style, as it's not cynical, it's accepting the hopelessness of ideology and just submitting to the nonsense of our world. And it's like, you can kind of laugh at it, you can not take it seriously, but he can slip under the radar to the people who actually want to see someone in his position with all the resources and people he gets to talk to. Is he trying to sneak out some critical information? It's almost conspiracy theory-ish, but I don't think it's necessarily too ridiculous.
I was gonna say that. I was like, this sounds very conspiratorial, but but there are shreds of truth in what you're saying. So however, I would say that is kind of the hallmark of conspiracies, which are like, they have shreds of truth in them mixed with like other aspects which are not true, and that's what makes them so compelling. So
power cable delivered to my door.
Hey, just real quick, I wanted to acknowledge that we have a new participant in here, Nicola.
Hi,
Howdy.
Nicole.
Don't know your last name, but the funny thing is...
it's Himmons. You don't have to worry about it. Literally means dog, so...
Okay. But, yeah, Jay said, hey, let's get Nicola in here on this. And then he left. So now you're here unsponsored.
You're his
You're
replacement.
welcome. You're among friends.
Yep, you got to replace Jay. So
the fun thing.
So I get to be the discount version of Jeff, basically.
Yes.
To possibly close up that conversation, you pick a random time covered by the Bible, and it's the vast majority of the people are claiming to know God, and they're being called out for not knowing God by like the lone prophet. And so this idea that the intelligentsia are generally in favor of injustice and unrighteousness, basically extraction regimes, where most of the people are poor and a few of the people have lots of things, is a just super well characterized thing in Scripture, including the Pharisees in Jesus' time.
Yeah.
So Orge wanted to see a rock, so I got a rock here. Orge likes rocks.
What is this? I see no rocks.
Regrettably, I can't show him my rock collection. And
Here's the other part of the
if
rock.
the camera was working, I could show him piglets, but that's about it.
Yeah, the other part of the rock.
So you're a geologist person, Nicola? You like rocks?
No, I'm not a geologist person. I'm a philosophy person, but I'm just a general nerd. So
Okay.
We went on vacation recently, and we went up north, well past the Canadian Shield, and we just found an abandoned quarry and started rooting around there looking for microfossils.
Oh,
Nice.
Very cool.
What kind of rocks were there? What was this?
We found an abandoned quartz quarry, so we found a lot of quartz that were still present there and that were high in purity. So like we actually found a lot of citron rocks. We were really aiming for like something that would have like microbial fossils in them, and we didn't find any, unfortunately, because down in LA we have a geological site that's dedicated to looking at microorganisms in fossils. So
So you mean like foraminifera and things like that? Like I'm assuming that's what you're talking about.
I'm not familiar with what you specifically said.
No, it's okay. No, it's okay.
The most exciting thing I've ever found was the Trilobite. So
Yeah, like foraminifera.
not exactly a microfossil, but I got very excited by finding that.
Like the like foraminifera and like the God, I forget. There's another name that is associated with that, but you tend to find them in limestone sedimentary structures that are like from like deep sea sedimentation from long ago, where these animals like their shells like end up filtering down to the bottom after they die, and they all just collect on the bottom of the seafloor, and then that just builds up over time. And so the very it's a common micro fossil to look at. So anyways, that's it.
I mostly just donate them to any rocks that I think are suspect to the Cambrian excavation site. So
cool. I love rockheads, rockhounds.
Yeah, I've been reading about sedimentation, which is very fascinating. Erosion and sedimentation, and the formation of the cement in the rocks. And how rocks change over time. What is it? Eogenesis. There's what is the middle one? And then there's teleogenesis of sedimentary rocks, but there's a middle one. Mesogenesis. Yeah, there's like 3 stages to sedimentary rocks.
I remember taking like a clay mineralogy class that was fascinating, but it was extremely. It was really complicated. I can't remember half of it. But,
it is. And there's some amazing physics involved in basically turbulence and viscosity of the holding power of the water, laminar flow, and turbulent flow, and all the differences in structure. And then the rocks get buried, and then they get buried by kilometers, and they start to raise in temperature, and you end up with all these all of this mineralization, which makes 6,000 years look pretty fucking dumb.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about like all the geological and sedimentological processes that go on to construct all the different types of structures that we see, and all the science that has gone to explore and understand how they form, what it takes to form, that it's just that this is why most geologists are like, I'm not even like gonna talk about like a young Earth. It's just ridiculous. Not even worth my time. It's uninteresting.
But there's There's a fun fact, and that is that back in the day when they were trying to figure out what fossils were, and they found these weird rocks up high in the mountains. And they looked like they could be shellfish or something, except that how could you get that up in the mountains? This was back with catastrophism. And it was only because they believed that there was this giant flood that covered all the earth that they could have believed that clams and other sea creatures could have been up on the mountains, and allowed them to conceptualize fossils that way. Yeah. And so what would be really mess with people's heads is if there was a dual purpose to Noah's flood. One is to counter the mythology of the time, which basically is the mythology of the time was pro-slavery. Noisy people would get flooded, whereas the Genesis narrative is wicked people get flooded. Very interesting difference, especially if slaves complain about their situation. But anyway, the other purpose would be to convince us that these things really are fossils. And you could make a better argument. You could make a better argument with geocentrism, because geocentrism was by far the better scientific hypothesis for a long time. It collected the evidence better, especially when we didn't know about airy disks. There's a great blog series called The Great Ptolemaic Smackdown, and it shows why Galileo and Copernicus got so much pushback. Heliocentrism isn't even heliocentrism. The orbits are not precisely the sun, and they have epicycles. And so it's very tricky to navigate the specifics. But the fossils and the flood is a much weaker claim. But how we figured out what fossils are is a fun story.
Is that a blog you're referring to, the Great Ptolemaic?
Yeah,
Smackdown?
if you search for the Great Ptolemaic Smackdown,
yeah, I found it.
It's a brilliant, really fun. The author's funny, very fascinating series.
Yeah, I just want to mention I've got a lot of people pissed off at me tonight because I didn't put links out and send links to everybody like I normally do. And Scott and I spent about 20 minutes trying to sort who we were going to send links to. And the people that are pissed off, it's not personal. It's just we sorted and we had, I mean, if I let you all in there, I would have to buy 2 StreamYard accounts, right? It's
Well,
like,
to be fair, you let Jeff in, so
give me a break. I know. I let Jefferson Spashcock in.
I can step right back out. You know,
Oh, don't worry. I'm pretty booty tonight, so I'll probably.
Yeah, he's in a booty mood.
Booty mood. I'm very booty. No, Jefferson, you were one of the people that ended up on the list. So.
I got to apologize. I noticed when the email arrived in my Gmail, and I noticed it late, but I didn't recognize your name. I don't know that I've ever heard it before. And I noticed that my brother was included with it, and I was like, I wonder if my brother's got something going on. I'm not sure I'm getting this this invite.
Oh, yeah. Because it comes in with his name, yeah.
Yeah, my name is Mike.
you know you should have gotten that email for round 2 of Praise I Am That I Am and Gavin's debate with me and Jay.
Really?
What's that?
When was that?
No, I'm not. I'm kidding. We're not doing round 2.
No, I was kind of. I'm like, wait, what are those guys up to? I noticed that Praise changed the name of his channel.
So what is up with Praise? No, I popped in over there and he was like playing games or something. What?
He got pissed off over the fact that his content isn't monetizable by YouTube.
Well, because he has a million copyright strikes, for one thing.
Well, it's like people used to ask, like, why does he have such a huge subscriber base in the first place? We were asking, like, did he buy subs and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, Praise joined at, like, the heyday of new atheism on YouTube, and he just uploaded a bunch of Discovery Institute videos without any commentary, just in their entirety, and that garnered a lot of attention and a lot of subs. Okay. And then he went silent for a while. He was a bit active on G+, and then he started doing live streams. That's the history of Praise I Am That I Am.
So shall it be. So shall it.
And then he started changing his mind every 3 seconds about something.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one thing he's been consistent about. So
yeah, he is consistent. Is he back in cahoots with Smokey now, or is he out?
I have no idea. I don't watch any of that crap. But
okay, yeah, I haven't looked at one of Praise's streams for a while now.
Yeah, the only thing that I know about is, like, for the most part, I tend to stay away from Praise I Am That I Am and people like G-Man and the like.
That's pretty wise.
Yeah, and
yeah,
unfortunately, like, I fall prey to a crazy every now and then. I just, like, have a weakness of the will, and I have to go in and just, like, make a snarky comment on the YouTube channel or something. And I get a glimpse of what exactly he's been up to. And one of the things is, like, he gave away his account to a relative or something, and they made it monetizable.
Was that Ryan?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And he then took it back, and then immediately got all of his videos demonetized because he's like, initially, like, dealing with atheism versus theism, evolution, creationism, any of those sort of topics, it's not advertiser friendly as is deemed by YouTube. Like, advertisers don't want it to be associated with either side of that debate. They want to reach as broad an audience as they possibly can. But when you do that on top of, like, juvenile, like, blowing raspberries into the microphone, and just calling people poo-poo heads, or saying that they're walking fecal bags or something.
Yeah.
Advertisers don't want to be associated with that, and that's setting aside all the shit that would violate YouTube's hate speech policies.
You know, I'm thinking about changing my screen name to Walking Fecal Bag.
Walking Fecal Bag. Yeah. So somebody looked at Praise's YouTube studio, and apparently he had a copyright strike on every single video because he'll play anything like music or, you know, content, and he gets copyright strikes all the time.
Well, recently he's been doing that because it's like, if you just do a playthrough of a video game, which is something he's been doing,
Yeah.
and you don't add any commentary about the game, or like you're not reviewing the mechanics of the game or anything like that, that constitutes a copyright strike. It's not covered under fair use. You actually have to contribute something that would make it a unique property to you. And
but
just playing football doesn't count.
Yeah, but he's been getting them for a long time because he keeps playing music. And I'm like, I even asked him a couple times, how the hell did you get a license for all that music? And apparently he didn't. So he gets copyright strikes. I don't know. Anyway, so I wonder how many people are mad at me tonight. I could put the link out there, but let's see, what do we got? How many we got in here? One, two,
well,
three,
people are very
four,
interested
five,
in Luke.
I'm fine with dropping out. I have to go. I'm gonna have to go to dinner.
Oh no, please, Jason.
Oh, you don't want me to? Okay.
Can you leave your chin?
Because that'll be one more slot for God knows who. Oh, you can go to sleep. Just stay on.
I don't know. Danny's been DMing me. He wants in. So.
Oh, Danny!
Oh, Jesus Christ! Are you kidding me?
I'm just kidding. I don't have him on DM.
Anybody
here we go.
Anybody gives Danny a link, and I'm shutting this fucking stream down.
This is an unassailable argument right here on the screen. Speed on the screen.
Defense, Butthead. Yep.
Hey,
there you go.
I was going to ask. I didn't catch you stream with Speed before, Luke. I'm just curious, like, what's your background? Like, are you working on a degree? Have you already have a degree? Like, what's your background? I'm just curious, like.
So my background is software. I dropped out of school 3 times because it was far too abstract for me. I'm very practical, except that I got forced in abstract directions and scholarship like McIntyre and Charles Taylor and such because of 2 reasons. One is I didn't want to be a programmer who couldn't understand humans at all, and I was kind of that 8 years ago. And the second is that Christian apologetics sucks balls, and I wanted to see if there was something better out there. I think there is, but it requires a major pivot. And I don't know that I want to call it apologetics after. But yeah, I basically spent the last 8 years giving myself a liberal arts education, being mentored by a sociologist who is a secular Jew, accomplished in his field, and things like that.
That's great.
But yeah, databases and software is my sort of where I've actually made money.
I mean, those who show an interest in Christian apologetics and also think that it sucks balls tend to favor presuppositionalism. So, A+ for you for not going down that road.
Presuppositionalism is foundationalism, and foundationalism is freaking dead. Come on, guys.
No, it's not actually foundationalism.
We'll have that argument out sometime.
Yeah, you have that Clarkian Van Tillian distinction hashed out at some point.
Presuppositionalism is okay for sort of transcendental arguments of the Kantian categories of the mind that you're currently using to explore reality. Like, characterize the instrument you're using to explore reality, and if you don't have the same instrument over multiple observations, then you can't combine them in any analysis, because it's like using a measuring tape that's constantly expanding and contracting to measure a whole bunch of objects. You can't combine those measurements in any sensible way. That's the one place I would do foundationalism. But
no, I would just say that it's broken from the ground up, not the least of which being that as a Christian just as an apologetic, set aside the Christian aspect of it, they have to employ a non-classical logic in order to defend classical principles of logic.
this isn't Gödelian, is it? No. Okay, that might be weeds for this. That's an interesting comment, but I don't immediately understand it.
It has to do with something like Van Til never actually formulated a transcendental argument for his particular style of apologetics. That was left up to like Bonson and Frame and others. But the idea that he had was that for anything the atheist says, whether it be true or false, it has to presuppose the existence of God, and specifically the Christian God. That's what he articulated in some of his writings. And so if an atheist says, for example, like there is no God, if that is false, that has to presuppose the existence of the Christian God. And that's a non-classical kind of logic.
That's a nonsensical kind of logic, as far as I understand.
Yeah, no, it's actually a Straussian version of logic, wherein you have more than two truth values, where you also have like true, false, incoherent, or you could also add others to it, like indeterminate.
Yep.
Would be another sort of truth value you could add. Which I think that for the most part, I think people operate under that kind of non-classical logic, because whenever we make a sort of simple inductive inference, like the next time I go outside my house, the neighbor's dog is going to run up to the fence and it's going to bark at me and it's going to want me to pet it. Well, that's not true as of yet, and it's also not false as of yet, and there's no way to tell whether or not it's going to be true or false until that event occurs.
Sure.
And so for the sake of this particular moment, the truth value is functionally indeterminate. It's not true or false, which violates certain principles of classical logic, because generally classical logics are bivalent, that any given proposition under consideration would have to be true or false.
So this is like Aristotle's, is there going to be a sea battle tomorrow, right?
That would be one of the considerations of it, and why it got a bit more attention in the 20th century after people started reconsidering it.
So is a non-monotonic logic an example of a non-classical?
Non-monotonic?
Yeah.
You're talking about temporal logics?
So I'm not trained in formal logics, but I had a really intense argument about Fitch's paradox with a friend of mine who thinks that he is God at logic. And I think temporal might be the right term, but I just don't know enough to say. It's defeasible, which means that you can say things that are wrong based on now, but it's okay to operate based on them. And then if they get defeated, then you no longer use them. But
operate based on like your best information at the given time.
That's my sense, but I don't like avoiding the problem of future contingents seems like something we should do, because it's kind of
that would I get what you mean. A more contemporary example of the problem would be like if you stopped and considered what was the size of the singularity before expansion. You can't actually compare it to anything, because anything that you seek to compare the singularity to would be something that is inside the universe.
Yeah.
And since size is relational, the only thing that you can say is that the initial size of the universe is an indeterminate size.
Yeah.
And then it expanded, and everything else is relational to that.
Yeah, so I don't really know my Plato yet. I kind of want to learn ancient Greek before I do, but who knows if that'll ever happen. Apparently there's a debate over whether you could have false beliefs, because as soon as you have a belief, it like has to be true, which just sounds weird to me. But apparently if you have like a limited kind of logic, then you have to say that.
Like, why does that sound weird to you?
Because I have been wrong enough in my life that I don't assume that beliefs have to like refer to something that exists.
Well, like the thing that I'm struggling with is that you said like the issue of beliefs having to be true, and it's like beliefs typically don't have to be true. They just have to be accepted as true, and the person can be correct or incorrect in respect to that. So I think what you mean is like an issue of knowledge. Like if you're convinced that something is the case, so much so that you would say that you know it to be the case, and it turns out not to be.
Yeah.
Because like I believed that Trump was not going to win the 2016 election, and my belief was wrong.
Oh God, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah, I find this mildly interesting, but I'm guessing that other people are going to say, what incarnation is going on here?
Well, Gerstreams has this comment here.
If
Only the biggest. That's what I say in response to him.
Yeah.
You're in the wrong channel.
There's only one weenie, and that weenie is Danny. What did you think of his call in the map, Nicola?
His call into which one?
Oh, to Matt Dillahunty.
I don't think I saw that because he's
Months
phoned
ago,
in
right?
actually
This
a
is
couple of
past this
times, and
week.
that's what my initial comment on this stream was. I was wondering which call-in he had done,
Oh,
and I have not seen the call-in with him and Matt Dillhunty because he
got
has
it.
phoned in multiple times.
has he
And in
really?
one of them, he was arguing that, like, oh, well, I can present a valid argument for something that's principally unfalsifiable. To which the answer is really just to kind of shrug and go, okay, so what? Can you present a sound argument?
Yeah.
To which the answer is no. Because in virtue of something being principally unfalsifiable, you don't have any reason to accept it, which would also mean that you don't actually have any reason to accept one of the premises, or else you're subject to some kind of flaw in reasoning there, which would make it invalid. And specifically, like the one I saw was he was arguing for metaphysical Platonism.
Okay.
Yeah, like the actual existence of like some realm beyond like the material realm, beyond the mental realm, and just these forms of things that everything else is just an instantiation of.
It reminds
It's
me
like-
of the stock introduction to every Netflix original series where you have you get what I mean? Where you have these big drawings.
When you
of things.
stream a Netflix video, you're just in Plato's cave.
That's right. That's exactly it.
I think the argument last night, I only listened to a few minutes of it and my brain exploded when Danny said the mind isn't natural. He just kind of stated that as his premise, right? Or as his a priority argument or some goddamn thing. I'm not sure.
Is it just as his assumption, we'll say.
His assumption, right? But anyway, I think it was that something about this. Okay, if God is supernatural, then why? I think he was trying to get at why would Dillahunty want evidence for God if God was supernatural? And Dillahunty kept saying, "Well, fucking show me something, that's supernatural, and we'll start."
That actually is an absolutely fair question to ask of Matt Dillahunty.
Oh yeah.
Because
but
I have gotten into it with Matt before on Discord, Twitch, and before that G+. Couple of Google Hangouts where he joined, and he did not like my take that evidence can actually be non-empirical.
How would that be?
Well, if you stop and consider like what forms evidence can actually take, one of the ways that evidence can actually manifest itself is as a scientific paper. You don't actively have to go out and investigate anything. You can just grab the conclusion of the paper and use it as a premise of an argument, or you can cite it for your own paper.
Right.
There's no real exploratory endeavor on your part there, which I think is what people typically mean when they say empirical.
Yeah, you're kind of building on a house of cards.
Kind of. Yeah. But I really what I think when people say that they have empirical evidence for something, they just mean I have a posteriori facts that support my case.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a different. It's a more restrictive thing, because if you stop and think about it, because like people generally associate scientific evidence with empirical evidence, but not all empirical evidence is actually scientific evidence. Our ancestors were using empirical evidence long before they even developed methods of science, and they were applying them in like non-scientific means. So it does people benefit to remember that there is that little distinction there. And you can also make the case that like Galileo didn't actually require like dropping things off the Leaning Tower of Pisa in order to tell which one like landed before the other, to come to the conclusion that gravity affects everything equally, irrespective of its weight. He sat in an armchair and thought it out.
Yeah.
In which case you can have a priori evidence. And if you have a priori evidence, how on earth do you actually have empirical evidence is an issue.
But how do How do you
Like, the
think
only way
anything out?
have that is if you're using empirical evidence to mean that it's related to some kind of experience you've had,
I mean,
irrespective of whether or not you've actually gone out and done it.
are you saying like the formation of the hypothesis itself has some a priori knowledge that you're using to formulate that hypothesis?
Well, no, it was just he came to the conclusion entirely from just thinking it through from the armchair. Granted, he did use experience,
he
and so
formed
it is
yeah.
empirical in that respect.
Well, he formed a hypothesis that this might be the case, and then he tested that hypothesis, but he used not previous knowledge that he had to formulate that hypothesis. But he didn't say, I know this is the case, and I don't, otherwise he wouldn't test it because he knows it's the case. But he had a hypothesis, and then he went and tested it. And that
he actually didn't really go and test that.
I think it's a
That
myth.
specific hypothesis, he didn't. He never actually dropped like two different weights from.
Well, I'm not
tower.
saying that. I'm not saying that example.
He used he used a collection of ramps and stuff like that. Just
okay.
And even then, it wasn't even so much as a test because he was so committed to the idea that, and he was entirely right. Like the power of hypotheticals is entirely understated in today's society. That you can just sit in an armchair and work things out just based on your prior understanding of the world. Then the power of thought experiments can actually lead you to these revolutionary conclusions.
But
one of the things was when he went out and used the ramps and stuff, he was just illustrating the point that he had. He wasn't actually testing it because he was already committed to the fact that no, gravity affects things all equally.
But I don't think any of that means that there's not that those hypotheses, and I'm just using that as an example, as a term with regards to like somebody sitting and thinking these hypotheticals, are based on empirical evidence. Like, you're the guy sitting there. He's like, I have this idea, I have this hypothesis. This might be the case. The premise is there is other empirical evidence that he's using to support that. Now,
that's why I drew the distinction between having empirical data and using a posteriori reasoning.
Okay, cool. We're on the same page. Okay.
Yeah, and part of the reason for that is just like if you stop and you reflect on how evidence is used and all that. William Thompson has a good account of what constitutes evidence, like what separates evidence from a mere fact. And his idea is evidence are the facts that require an explanation. So first of all, they're not in dispute. They are discriminatory. They discriminate against explanations. And they are, in fact, what is observed to be the case. And from that, you don't actually have to have facts that are empirical. You can have things that are just like something could be in mathematics, for example, evidence for another theorem.
Yeah.
And it provides a unified account of what is evidence. You don't have to make this special category. Like this is evidence in mathematics. This is evidence in forensics. Everything is just the facts that demand an explanation is what evidence is.
I mean, it sounds to me like you're pulling out a unit of work that doesn't involve any empirical collecting of data or testing of anything, that sits in between the initial experience of reality and thinking about it and doing stuff and some later experiment down the road.
I haven't mentioned experiment really, but
no. But what I'm saying is that there's a unit of work where you can talk about things entirely in the armchair, but it's predicated on stuff happening before it.
Sure. Well, yeah, you can say that. Like if you're talking about like errors, like if you're talking about, let's say, Galileo's ideas of how it is that two weights would act if you attached a string to them. That's entirely predicated on like past experience or something like that. Sure. But this is more about a general assessment of what evidence is. Because if you have just a fact in front of you, like let's say all you have to go on is you walked into a house and there's a dead body and that's it. And you have no other context about like how the body is positioned, how the body came to be there. Like is it riddled with holes? Does it have gashes on it or anything like that? All you know is there's a dead body. is that really evidence for or against it being a suicide? Not really. Because the only thing you have is the fact that there's a body.
Yeah.
It's the collection of facts in tandem that require an explanation, and the required explanation necessarily discriminates against other explanations. So, like, if you also happen to know that the body has these small circular holes in it that look like bullet holes, well, and it's just riddled with them, well, that's an argument against suicide right there.
Pretty good one.
Yeah. Unless you're in, Texas, where in like the 1980s, they found somebody who was dead from like 9 shots to the chest with a bolt action 22 caliber rifle, and they ruled it a suicide.
Well,
But
if you found a dead body, it would be evidence of suicide, but it's also equal evidence for all kinds of other things.
it's either evidence for suicide, natural causes.
Correct. Yeah.
It could be a matter of homicidal intent. Okay, great. Is that evidence against any of those?
It's equal.
The answer is no, it's not evidence against those propositions.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And so it's in light of all the collected relevant facts that makes a body of evidence. So it's improper under Thompson's view to consider like an individual fact in isolation, divorced from its context and the other associated facts as evidence. Yeah. Evidence is the collective body of facts and what they seem to infer, or what it is that they seem to entail.
Think about the typical atheist, basically. Okay, sitting here in a room, anywhere from 20 to 70 years old, and you have basically a body of knowledge, that you've accumulated in your brain, and that knowledge pretty much to me spells pure naturalism, right? Because everything around me right now is behaving as I have learned it behaves. And, we have this memory, and you can go all the way back, and it's like everything's been behaving regularly and consistently for all of this time, right? And so you start there, and you have this bag of knowledge, right? You have a bag of knowledge about how objects work, how putting one object behind another, you can't see the damn thing. You turn it around, you can see the others. All of that, millions of things. And you go from that, and of course, if you want to analyze things, you might ask, how did all that knowledge get there? And of course, we also have a lot of experience with babies. We all know about babies and how they poke themselves in the eye and they don't know shit, right? And basically, you look all the way back to how we acquire our knowledge of the world.
I honestly know jack shit about babies.
Oh, really?
Like I'm an uncle of 5, and I can proudly say I've never changed a diaper. So,
yeah. Are you a really crappy father, or you just don't have any kids?
I don't have any kids.
Oh,
like my boyfriend wants to have kids, and I told him, God willing, the only thing we can do is keep trying. So
I was a father back in the 60s, and I never changed a diaper either because I was an asshole.
Yeah.
There's a New York Times article.
It was entirely just a matter of convenience on my part. Like, it wasn't like anything nefarious. It was just, I'm just there to spoil these children. Like, in each of when they were turned 5 for their birthdays, I gave them a megaphone and an air horn.
Every time I see my grandson,
just to annoy the
parents, to give them Jimbo and Skittles.
Yeah. Shit. What? Anyways, so we have this body of knowledge. Like every average person is walking around with this massive body of knowledge about the world and about how things work, right? And we expect. We constantly, all of us, expect things to keep working that way, right? And then science is a bit of an extension. If you start digging into science and you start looking at neuroscience, and then you can start to see how this little baby acquired that knowledge and how that knowledge became part of this organism, right? So science is kind of an extension of this natural foundation of knowledge, right? And I'm guessing that anybody sitting around hypothesizing about gravity is going to be drawing from that huge body of knowledge that, they picked up from being a baby until they were an adult. And that is kind of our epistemic framework. And I'm trying to understand, like, that's how I justify naturalism, that there's nothing that I could do right now tonight that is going to break naturalism for me that I can think of.
So
Right.
Francis Bacon wrote about, I actually need to read him, but wrote about the idols. And there were characteristic ways of thinking that were a little more sophisticated than old wives' tales, but nevertheless ways that people understood their reality that helped them make sense of it and navigate it, which nevertheless he thought got in the way of a much deeper understanding of reality. And so what keeps us from having recapitulated that?
What keeps us from not getting to this deeper reality?
So it's
That's
just,
what we're,
you can accumulate ideas of how reality works that function well enough, but nevertheless are wrong if you really dig into it, right?
like what? What's
So
You're coming dangerously close to the problem of skepticism and solipsism there, Luke.
So here's an example. You think you know how your car works, and it helps you understand when it needs gas and when it needs a tune-up and so forth. But you're parked on a really steep hill, you went on a hike, and you turn the car on, and it turns a few times, but then sputters if it runs out of gas. How do you solve that problem? If you have the deeper understanding of the car, which I fortunately had one time, I impressed my wife, which is kind of hard to do. I realized that the thing that grabs the gas from the gas tank at that severe angle might not be able to reach the small amount of gas that was left. So I shifted into neutral. I coasted to a flat part, let it settle for like 30 seconds, and then turned the ignition. It turned on. And only because I had that deeper understanding of how the car works could I pull that maneuver rather than call AAA and waste 2 hours of our day for them to do the
that's
same thing that I
science.
did.
Science, motherfucker. That's science.
But, yes, but the question is, are we so much better than the people of Galileo's time that we couldn't possibly have some of the same?
Yes, we are.
And
You want proof of it? We're talking over the internet right now.
Well, if there are 500 million climate refugees in 50 years, would you say the same?
Now you're switching it to a moral dilemma as opposed to just an epistemic problem or an epistemic question, which is like, do we understand more about the natural world in which we inhabit versus are we as morally virtuous as the people from back then?
No, that's not the question. You say that, look, we have all this.
Here's the thing. Do we have a better understanding of how the world actually functions than the people who at a time thought that shoving blackberries up your ass would cure hemorrhoids?
That wasn't my question.
say yes.
That wasn't my question. They found a way to navigate their world, and it worked well for them. We have a more advanced way of navigating our world and understanding it. But
you can say it worked well for them, but I would argue, apart from that people were actually subject to more of a gambler's fallacy, because if you look at some like the health textbooks in ancient Greece, there were people who thought that the way that you cured epilepsy was you ate the heart of a donkey under the light of a clear full moon. Like, that obviously isn't going to work, and we know that.
Yeah,
so I'll give a real life example. The number of people who suffer from anxiety disorders in America is like something like 20%. What if we find out 50 years from now that it's because of the way we ordered society that actually caused that anxiety? And if you order society differently, you can get 5% incidence rate instead of 20.
And the people who ordered society 50 years from now will be more informed than we are, and we're more informed than the people who existed 2,000 years.
Sure, but
ago.
my point being is, could we have deep misunderstandings now in a way that's analogous to deep understandings in Francis Bacon's time?
Inevitably, sure.
That's my point.
But to say that, like, oh, these were like, they knew more, or they were so much more in tune, or anything of that sort.
I'm not saying that.
It's just misguided.
Are you suggesting a paradigm change that will throw everything on its ear? That sort
of
thing?
Paradigm changes don't. That's not how they operate. I mean, Newton's laws are still used all over the place.
Right.
So what you started by saying that we have all this science, we understand the regularities, and things in the future will operate in intelligible ways to us. Right? And I'm saying that could end up being catastrophically false.
How?
how would be we think that we understand how to interact well with our fellow humans, and then what ends up happening is there are 500 million climate refugees, and all of a sudden we regress to a more primitive way of behaving with each other to protect our own, and all of a sudden we're not as awesome as we thought we were.
But you're bringing social sciences into this, and I'm not sure. Okay, social sciences basically are something that we're making a lot of progress on. Unfortunately, we're not making enough, because instead of looking to neuroscience as a solution to social science, we're looking to the kind of things that you're suggesting.
Well, no, I kind of sympathize with what Luke is saying there with respect to climate refugees, because there is something in my local area that I've noticed of people, which is they see the odd, let's say, Asian refugee, and they treat them as a novelty. You know, they're polite, accepting, blah, blah, blah. As that refugee rate increases, now they become a nuisance. They're a hindrance. They're an inconvenience. And then it increases further, and then it's just people going, they took our jobs, kind of thing. And yeah, you can have this kind of social regression where if your social environment changes, people's social attitudes become a very much more us versus them mentality on more identifiable characteristics, we'll say.
And oh, by the way, much better ways to interact with other people morally could set the ground for far more interesting interdisciplinary science, which involves a lot of people breaking out of their ways of thinking and deeply understanding another person's way of thinking. And that could open up whole new avenues of science, say sophisticated material science, where you have to get the materials to interact with each other in this way that requires very different modes of thinking to all cooperate. So you could have major scientific innovations if we break out of the reason, like thinking like Leibniz had this characteristica universalis idea that one language would solve all political problems after the 30 Years' War. And there's a lot of thinking today that construes reason as a cure-all. Like you can have a Renaissance man who knows everything, a Renaissance person now, not man. And that's a very devastating way of thinking that's fundamentally limiting in how deeply we humans could cooperate with each other. And it prohibits both things like solving political problems, but also doing a lot of science we could be doing. So I don't think it's just social sciences. It's like if you don't have interesting enough ways for people to deeply cooperate with each other, there are things you can't do in science, there are things you can't do in society. It impacts everything. So I don't think we're as intelligent as we think we are in actuality. I think we're far more intelligent than we think we are in potentiality.
Well, yeah, there's this problem that we think we are reasoning beings, and I don't think I think that amounts to about maybe 0.01% of what we do. Mostly, we're organisms, right? But we are studying. What's that?
There actually is like a very, very controversial dispute as to whether or not, like, what separates humans from animals is that we are effectively rational creatures, or whether or not we are more emotive and we're more responsive creatures.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of evidence for the latter of the two than the former, that our rationality is actually a result of our irrationality, and that we are actually more impulsive and more emotive and more reacting on a visceral basis than anything else, that we don't actually stop and think things through.
Yeah, until we get into conversations like this where we attempt to create constructs.
Yeah, no, like that's the thing.
Get around it.
Like when you're talking about like what people generally do, you're talking about their general setting, and how people will address certain questions. And so they'll ask people a question like, tell me who is married and who is unmarried, and they'll like provide a scenario with A, B, and C, and people won't be able to tell you like whether or not B is married or unmarried, when the obvious rational conclusion is that B would have to be unmarried. And they'll present some weird logical scenario, and just people don't spend the time to even bother working it out.
Yeah.
And it's also like, if we're talking about like our day-to-day interactions with people on politics or on various other topics, it is entirely visceral. It's a knee-jerk reaction. Like if someone just pops up to you and says like, oh, you know, I'm not going to get vaccinated because there's little squid monsters that have come out in the vaccine. You just want to punch that person in the face, at least if you're me. I don't know about you, but like that's your visceral reaction.
Yeah. By the way, we have Cygart in chat because you brought that up. Capturing Christianity did a 5-minute video by Cygart saying, get the damn vaccine. Basically, it's the Christian thing to do. And he got 1.5K likes and 2.1K dislikes on 41,000 views because he's a Christian who came out for vaccinating. And I guess
to be fair, he's a Christian conspiracy theorist who came out in favor of vaccinating after he had his "I spent $500,000 on hookers and blow" scandal. So
there's 40. Let's see, there are 3,000 comments on this thread, and I guess most of them are just slamming, and they just treated this man so badly. And I'm going to put a link in my description to the video.
He's fine. He's getting the ad revenue.
No, he's it was on somebody else's channel. So he got nothing.
Oh, it's even worse.
Yeah.
So
just the hate.
You were going somewhere with you accrue understanding of how the world works, and then you go forward with that. And it seemed something along the lines of regularity and such. Were you going to take a few more steps down that road?
Well, okay. I start at the beginning. You know, I think therefore I am. You start with what you have in front of you, with what I have right now, right? I mean, I could start each day on this epistemic journey to justify my epistemology, right? And I always start with what is locally in front of me, what is working in front of me. And then, of course, because I am a human sort of organism, I have these memories, right? And I have all this knowledge. And then I augment that with as much science as I possibly can. Like what I did is I went around and I looked at the world around me, right? And so I got a microscope and I looked in more depth. So then I got into science, looking at the world with science. And then I walked all the way up my toes, my ankles, up my knees, through my whole body and started looking at what I am, what I am as a human organism. And the most important thing I got to is what I am in neuroscience, basically. And from that, I think that is the right approach to knowledge. I call myself a scientismist or a scientistist because I think first we take the knowledge of what we are and we look at our human organism and we look at ourselves from as much neuroscience as we can possibly, as we know, and we try to develop an understanding of what is going on around us. And that whole thing weaves together for me as strict naturalism, basically. That I start with what I know, what I remember, I go to science, and then I walk it back up to my brain, to what I am, and take a look at the world from that perspective. And that's why I'm a strict naturalist. What is wrong with that?
I wonder if there's an argument that you trust ways of framing matters in doing the neuroscience, that if doing the neuroscience can completely undermine the things you initially trusted when you were going into it, that you've all of a sudden cut the only tether you have to the outside world, and you're now in a position of skepticism because your original reasons for trusting any instrumentation and any theory get killed off.
But the first thing I learned is that I am an organism. Okay. Do I have free will? Yes. As an organism, I do. Okay. Because I am an organism. I am a part of that universe. Right. So I can never deny the emotional feeling part of myself because that's what I am. Right. I mean, I can learn about it with neuroscience, but that isn't going to alter my decision to slam on the brakes if somebody runs out in front of my car. I'm still a human being. I'm still an organism doing these things, right? But having a better understanding of why I might slam on my brakes when I see a human run out in front of my car augments that understanding. It augments my existing in the universe as an organism, right?
Yeah, the question is more, how much of what you initially thought can be overturned until the point where your entire trust in the endeavor also crumbles. And there's a possibility that ongoing, as you do more and more research, you have to bring more a priori stuff to the table, like choices of what to research, what not to research. And if you make choices how to allocate what to research, what not to, what formalisms or models you think are reasonable, which ones you don't, does that actually shape the totality of the evidence that you collect, such that if you don't acknowledge the full decision process for why you collected that evidence and not other evidence, then you actually have a you don't have a representative sampling of the space, and therefore it's biased in ways that are in some sense a priori.
Oh, right. That's my complaint about people with PhDs. Basically, they're too narrow a focus, right? So I'm more of a synthesizer. I try to keep it broad. But yeah,
so you avoid that.
I need an example.
I like that way of avoiding the problem is you have to keep the stuff intelligible to people who are just having their not normal lives. I mean, your life is a little abnormal. You know a lot about neuroscience. Nevertheless, you don't have the PhD. You haven't been trained with the horse blinders, right?
Be myopic. Yeah, I don't know.
I think that's one reason I spend so much time talking to atheists instead of like sequestering myself into not a seminary, because I think it's more like cemetery, but like people who
you said that. There's somebody who I absolutely can't stand who always says that. He always calls them cemeteries.
Well, I mean,
unfortunate, Luke. Unfortunate. I'm going to have to throw you out of the room now.
Well, if you wait 4 minutes, I need to go around them because dinner will be ready and my wife gets the rest of my time. But she says 7:30. Okay, so actually, if you throw me out, then you lose 30 minutes that you could have.
Okay, I won't throw you out. I haven't booted anybody yet today. But I got a lot of people pissed off at me because I didn't send them invites.
Mike, some of this is going to be good fodder for our future.
We got to have. I think we're going to be up to Luke Part 40 eventually before I retire from this crap.
Hopefully, I don't get too boring. I need to continually be interesting, and that's a tall tale.
Oh, you're interesting. I was listening to Girl Streams last night, and I felt myself wanting to take my YouTube channel down again.
What?
That happens to me like 3 times a week lately. It's like, God, what do I want to do with this shit, you know?
How much does he know about neuroscience?
Girl Streams?
Yeah.
Gur doesn't know anything.
So why would you take your own down?
No, listening to the conversation last night. I don't know. I get frustrated with this whole thing. Conversations like we had tonight are the conversations that I want to have here. So,
yeah. I don't know. Just remember that any job or endeavor has a lot of shit work that you just wish that you didn't have to do. Maybe part of yours is having conversations you don't like in order to have the ones you like.
Yep.
Well,
on a daily basis, I rethink my whole life. Like, God, what did I do?
So do you read the meditations every day or every month maybe to help you do it every day?
Read the meditations? You mean like
Descartes?
Oh, no. I do have them in the back room. I got a lot of books in the back room that I'm never going to read. I don't know. You love my library.
Adventure ways of getting into them so I can deal with them at a level that connects to my current knowledge and then dig as deeply as I want, but otherwise not. And I don't think skimming is the way to do that.
Wait a minute. Oh, I guess I'm wrong. Gur is a neuroscientist, I guess. I forgot. I'm sorry, Gur. You know, me and him have a thing going. It was really funny last night. He was on John Maddox's channel, and Maddox was asking about my hating Gur streams, you know, and hating Gur mania. Because in Gur, it's really funny that you didn't tell John the whole story, that we were pranking him, that he was the fucking one that we were pranking. So we had this, like, Maddox was like, God, why is Speed so mad at you? And it's like, so we just kept building it up and building it up. And Gur was on his channel last night, and I think he said my humor is as dry as a desert, which I was really happy about. Thank you, Gur. You finally got it. You finally got it. I don't know. Anyway, should I open the stream up for a few more gentlemen to come in?
Yeah, let's do that.
Or ladies. We like ladies like Erica. We could use an Erica.
Erica can come in and talk about minds.
I also-
Danny,
Where they are.
I
Erica's
also want to
working on-
acknowledge all the chat people who say that I'm not always being clear. I'm actively figuring out a lot of this stuff, so that's just going to be what happens if you have me around.
Yep. Oh, that's probably Danny that thinks you're not being clear. I don't know.
Yeah, that was Danny.
Oh, okay.
We just ignore Danny. In fact, I'm probably going to boot Danny at any minute.
do you know Danny, Luke?
I've heard some stories, but that's it.
Okay, all right.
Here's
Luke did
Peter.
Peter gonna go for it.
Ooh. Well, at least I had my revenge in advance.
Did you?
And we're now all waiting for Speed to figure it out. But he'll
What?
get it eventually.
What did you do to me now?
Telling you.
God damn it, Peter.
Hey,
Several-
Peter,
several-
was that
several-
you that was Assembly of God the other night? That was you, wasn't it?
No. I
Oh,
still
was it?
don't know who that is, but
Oh.
they're using my picture as their avatar.
Okay, I was like, wow, that has got to be Peter.
You're Einstein?
Yeah. No.
And is it
The
Assembly of God, is that the one you're talking about?
no the
Assembly of
ass
God,
assembly of God
Yeah.
with some certain apologists in it.
He had like a picture of like Gavin and like one of the ones that Peter mocked up. So
Have you done this before, Luke? This StreamYard YouTube
No.
thing? YouTube
No.
thing? Really? So, wow, we got a virgin. Oh my God. What can we do to him?
Little heads up, Luke. It's very dangerous that if you do this and you have to rely on others.
Rely
Oh,
on
yeah.
others.
Yeah. Are
Well,
you taking a shot at me, Peter?
A bit. You'll figure it out eventually.
What the hell did you do to me?
I will say nothing.
You know what Peter did? He took a picture of his nude, just shriveled body and put my head on it. I can't believe it.
And from there on, it got worse.
Oh no.
But nice to meet you, Luke.
Yeah.
Danny, I just heard that you don't always abide by Mike's requirements in chat. And by the way, Clinton's argument is evolutionary argument against naturalism. Is that like the epitome of the analytic philosopher trying to do things where you need like a kid to tell you how humans form beliefs? I don't know.
No.
By the way, Speed, I missed one thing earlier when you had Jay on. Did he say that his intro was too pretentious?
Yeah. He was afraid to use it.
As opposed to changing his name from J to Mr. J?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yep.
Well, that's the name that Harley Quinn calls Joker, and Jay uses the Joker icon, so I assumed it was a reference to the DC comics or something.
It is, so was my intro.
I have a raccoon riot outside. I fed them once already today.
Hey,
But
any
there
of
were
you guys
only
have
3 of them.
any of you guys have Amazon Prime? Do you have
I
Amazon?
do.
I do, yeah.
I do, yeah.
There's like, I don't know if you're into this, but they have like a new animated graphic superhero cartoon out called Invincible.
Oh, yes.
Oh, that's very gory. Yeah.
It is great. Oh my God. And it's made by, I guess the guy who produced it or directed it is the same guy who did The Walking Dead.
It is
Yeah.
absolute shit.
Is there a new season out? Or is it just one season?
There's just one season.
There's just one
Oh,
season.
okay. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah, it's so graphic.
And
was really
yeah, in the
surprised.
last 2 episodes, it's like, what the fuck? It
Yeah,
just
it's
got
great.
worse.
Oh,
I mean,
it was great.
I mean, I was kind of hoping that, that there would be some some sort of that the dad really had some better purpose. Well, fuck, I don't want to give anything away.
No, yeah. He's totally. I like how they drop the F-bomb all the time. They're like, "What the fuck?" I'm like, "Oh, this is great." I loved it. So
yeah, it was all right. There's a new what is it? Inside Job, I think it is. It's a new animated thing on Netflix. I'm not sure if how much I like. It's kind of like Better Off Ted, except not as funny.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
saw
animated.
that. I haven't seen it, but I did see it on my stream.
I started watching it, but I'm gonna work on it. I gotta finish Billions, or my sister's gonna get mad at me.
Speaking of comics, have any of you come across the Jesus is Roommates with Superman comic called The Second Coming?
No.
It's by Mark Russell. It's kind of fun.
Is it on like Netflix or something, or?
No, it's just a paper comic.
Oh, okay.
The Second Coming.
One of the core ideas is that superheroes are not the solution to the kinds of problems we face in the 21st century. Like single people fighting off the bad guys, it just doesn't work anymore. It's like obvious that's dumb. And so he's looking at, well, what if you have Jesus's message of like healing and forgiveness and such as an alternative? It's kind of weird. I don't know. I thought is some thought provoking. He's clearly willing to he has a picture on the first one where the tree of the knowledge of good and evil has the fruit is shaped like sexual organs. So he's willing to go places like that.
So just Eve
have
trying to
seen the
yank a banana off the tree.
I have seen the prequel to that, I think.
Close them down, Speed. Close them down.
What?
Everything he does makes me want to poke my eyes out. I'm not going to look.
Wait, what else
no.
has Mark Russell done?
No, I was referring to the superhero theme. I don't know if you're familiar with Bible Man.
Oh,
No.
Oh God!
My kid used to watch him all the time.
There's one intro, and I still have to ask him. That is narrated, and the voice sounds exactly like Seth Andrews. If it's not him, it's someone who has the exact same voice.
Wow. Episode 1, terminating the toxic tonic of disrespect. Wow. That's just...
Hey, Speed, can you
Yeah.
just share what I have there for you? That's the one VHS I want to find. I want to know what that story is about.
Christopher Arm? What?
That's
Okay, can we
that's
get
from a guy on Twitter, isn't it?
Amazon Prime?
Death by Toys.
Have you tried buying it on Prime?
No.
No? Let me look.
Wow.
The thing you're showing on screen is from a Twitter account. The guy's called Death by Toys. He has all
Okay.
kinds of. He makes toys on request, and so he has everything from God's pubes to weird superheroes. It's the guy's imagination is impeccable, I have to say, and the toys look really good. And they're all one-offs.
How in the hell did these raccoons get glass cutters? I better go out and feed them.
They got cutters.
Glass cutters, yeah.
They have glass cutters.
Yeah, I think you're
Raccoons?
cutting through the glass out here.
Oh my God!
Shut the
They're
hell
gonna
up.
find you. They're gonna find.
Well,
Raccoon.
they were out there with a little cutting torch the other day. They with their little mask on, trying to cut through my fence.
Pete, those raccoons get everywhere.
Yes.
You will find out. You will find out later.
Oh no. Where is this going to happen to me, Peter? Now you got me fucking paranoid. I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. What?
And I'm not going to tell you.
Why did I ever get involved with the Dutch?
We had a conversation earlier. You said I'm starting, and then after about an hour, I'll open the room up. It's been 2 hours. It
Oh.
is 4 a.m. where I live, and
Have
I have to get my stuff ready for my show tomorrow.
Have I displeased you, Peter?
Oh,
Oh,
won't be
okay. I
able to
just saw
sleep
an
tonight.
email. I just saw an email from you from 55
Yeah.
minutes ago.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, what you gonna do about it?
Well, I got an email from you asking about an email address.
Oh, yeah.
That might take a while.
I got that email over in the other email account. That one doesn't work, by the way. Randolph's email doesn't work
Yeah.
anymore. I keep getting a return on it. I don't know. So I sent him that thing about the wiki. Do you want to talk about the wiki?
So here's the thing. You do know that Randolph has a website, multiple websites, right?
Yeah, but where are they?
Answers
Me boomer. I don't know. I know nothing.
Answers in Atheism has no answers on where to find a website.
Nope.
Canadian Atheist.
Not my job.
Isn't there an answers in atheism.com or org or something?
Yeah. And
Well, there you go.
shouldn't there be a link on that website to, I don't know, other
It should
atheist
be
websites?
in the description every episode we have.
Yeah. So Speed, I don't know where you are because you're old, but have you figured out contact pages on websites where you can
Figured
just
out what?
type in things and then contact people who run the website?
Oh yeah. I've written a few websites like that. Yeah. I've never actually used one.
Now
because I
combine that fact with the fact that Randolph has several websites and you're looking for a way to contact him.
Oh, you're suggesting I click on one of those fucking links? Okay.
I think I'm gonna head out and hang out with my wife. So I just want to say thanks. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Well, Luke, it's always great to talk to you.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll have set something up within the next couple weeks, something like that.
Yeah.
Another talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
If-
Good enough.
If Speed,
Thank you,
Speed
Luke.
will allow
Yeah.
it, Luke, I'd have a few questions for you. So if he can make it work, so we can have a chat one day.
Okay.
That would be good.
We'll
Yeah,
work
nice
that
chatting
out.
with you, Luke. Yeah.
Yeah, same here.
Everybody wants a piece.
No.
Okay, we'll see you later.
I didn't get any new interesting insults. I'm a little disappointed. So I want you guys to do better next time.
No, we're actually friendlier than the Christians think we are. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
I
strong,
say that, but I reserve them
we're
for
strong.
Danny. So,
Look, we're strong atheists. Weak insults are the weak atheists.
Okay, excellent. I like it.
okay,
All right.
later.
See you, Luke.
Catch you later. Bye-bye.
Bye. Oh, there's some guy trying to get in the back room or trying to get in. I'm resisting.
Who wants to get in the? Who's trying to get in the back room?
I'm not going
Resisting
to mention his
interest.
name.
Okay.
That's
It's something to
going
do
to
with a
be
hot
me.
dog.
That's going to be
Oh
me shortly.
man. Well, you know how I feel about him. You should let him in. But it's your room. It's your
Yep.
your StreamYard.
It's my car. It's my
Yep.
car.
Yep.
Yep.
It is kinda
let
weird
any
that-
old
that-
fucking tobacco smoking son of a bitch in my car. I can't smell anymore at all. I lost my sense of smell about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. As long as it was 4 years ago and not like in the recent
Yeah, not
Was
in
it
the last week.
COVID thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
told my son I had a cold Friday night, because I had
Yeah.
a little fever and was coughing and sneezing. He immediately went to COVID. And it's like, man, you can't even just have a cold anymore.
yeah. So, Nicola, you and Danny are having it out in chat. What the hell's he talking about? Emoting. What?
oh, he's just saying that I'm expressing my emotions, which is, okay, cool. Like I'm expressing my thoughts about Danny. Like I don't like Danny. I'm not going to hide that fact from anybody. I think I blew up on Danny on your stream, actually, Speed. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, thank you. No, thank you. Well, you want to do it again?
Oh no, it was a question about like the question was like, how do you come to the conclusion like something was designed? And his answer was, well, you have to delve into the problem of minds. And I was semi-drunk and I lost my fucking shit because you don't have to do that. You don't have to introduce that stupid ass freshman syndrome bullshit into this where it's just
exactly.
You have found something you're passionate about and you just want to like share it with the world. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
It's a very simple, straightforward question.
That's almost word for word the things that I have said to him or said.
And
yeah.
And it's just, he was insufferable. And I'll be frank, I don't like Danny. And it's like the bad thing about it is that Danny reminds me too much of myself from a few years ago. That's why I don't like him.
Yeah.
Very interesting insight.
So like that's why I can't really stand his presence, why I don't want to talk about philosophy with him, why I don't want to argue with him. It's because he's overly invested in it to the point where he will uncharitably interpret anything just so that he can like delve into some weird ass concept that he's understood this week. Yeah. And that's it.
Well, that's interesting. If I go back 50 years and look at myself as a cocky 20-year-old, I think I see what you mean.
a few
kind
years? Hold on. A few years?
No, I said 50 years. 50 years.
Sorry.
Yeah.
50.
Yep.
I thought it was more.
I don't know why I thought of this, but we used to get together and we'd all do acid, and I would just totally mind fuck the people I was with. I'd convince them that the Earth didn't really rotate around the sun, and that I had evidence and all sorts of weird shit. And I would freak them out so badly. Some of them wanted to go to the hospital. I was an asshole.
Sound more like a psychotic to me.
Yeah, I was a little bit of a psychotic. Yeah.
And you're criticizing me for trying a mind fuck on you.
Yeah, well, Peter.
Mine's
elder abuse.
Mine's better though because mine's real.
I can't understand why you guys don't like Danny. I honestly cannot. I mean, I respect it.
Yeah,
but I just, but you know, it's just difference of opinion. But I mean, I can appreciate his like style because it doesn't really bother me. But
when you try to have a conversation with him, okay, he pulls out some what I call philosophy 101 bullshit, right? And he says something, and then if you try to clarify it or you try to drill down into it,
yeah,
his first go-to is, "Oh, you don't understand the argument." And then he goes on and then he will pick, and then he won't come in a room and talk to me one-on-one. He refuses to do that. He will come in. He's got to have another person that he can fucking bounce off of. And and if you listen to what he said on Praises streams and other streams, he says he trolls us on purpose. He likes doing this shit, right? Yeah. And he gets under your skin, and that's all he fucking wants to do. He just want to have a conversation. You know,
and every single time he comes in, and every single time he comes in, he will pick a person in advance that he will see as his ally. He will agree with that particular person, and then that's what Speed meant when he said he bounces off of someone.
He has never done that to me. I mean, but maybe he sees me as an ally. I don't know.
Possibly. Well,
but
give it time, Jason.
He's never been like, I mean, but I'm not a philosopher, and I readily admit that I'm not an expert in those areas. So
because Speed, loves philosophy so fucking much.
I actually do.
Right?
No, I do.
That's part of the bit is that like he will admit to trolling people, and it's like I don't care. I will absolutely fucking troll him. Yeah. Like my hero is Diogenes the Cynic, and I consider myself a contemporary cynic, and I embrace that fact. But the fact is that like I know when and where and to what extent philosophy is applicable. Danny hasn't learned that.
Yeah.
And it's like I can, ease him into it, or I can just go in dry, and I fare for more towards the go and dry aspect of it.
I guess I like I like it when somebody, like, to a certain extent, is like challenging my thoughts and, like, you know, pushes back and I just find that he does it in a manner that, to me, it's not offensive. He's never like, you're completely wrong, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. But if he did do that, I still wouldn't be that upset, because, you know, whatever, that's okay. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. So
There's a difference between being upset and just saying, I don't want you in my fucking car.
yeah, no, and you know what, I totally respect that, and, like,
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything about him being in the room or not. I advocate for him, but it obviously is, you know, it is your choice, and if
Yeah.
he should, and honestly, Danny should respect that too. Like, if you don't want him in the room, and that's fine.
I would give anything to meet this man in 40 years, because I think he's going to be a whole different person.
Huh.
When he's got 40 years under his belt.
Yeah, that might be the
he's,
case.
you know, because he's bright. He's headed in the right direction with education. In 40 years, when he's lived a little, when he's not such a fucking weenie, he's going to be okay.
Oh, there we go. We got him to admit that, like, he's disingenuous about all of it. So fuck it.
I think Danny will be the dean of his online Danny University, and he'll give out bachelors of philosophy degrees to online students.
Yeah, it's this shit. You know, he's dishonest. You know, you try to have a conversation with him, and because you're talking, like, I come at things from usually a very different field than some people are used to, than he's used to, right? And to him, that means I'm dishonest because I don't agree with his bullshit.
Well, you know, like, that's the thing too, is that, like, he can say like, you can't say that you're trolling someone and then say you're not disingenuous. The whole point of trolling is that you are disingenuous, to elicit a trigger in someone and get an emotional reaction. I mean, that's the whole point of trolling. And on top of that, like, the incel remark is just because, like, he does look like he's auditioning for the part of Elliot Rodgers in some fucking Netflix documentary. Like, that's like, it looks like what he's typecasting himself for.
Yep.
Yeah, he's also admitted that he likes to derail the conversation to a topic that he wants to talk about.
Well, that's the other thing. There are certain people that completely take over a room and divert the topic from whatever the hell you're talking about in an unnatural way. And Danny's one of those people. And that's another reason why I don't want him in the car. Just, you know, conversation should be sort of like equal with everybody that's in the fucking room. Not just, you know, between two people that are talking over each other all the time and shit. I don't know.
You can't have that equal beat, because not everyone is as good at Photoshop as I.
Peter, I gotta fucking keep an eye on you. I'm gonna bounce you.
Back to the topic at hand. Whatever the fuck that was. But
let's say I have hidden talents.
I mean, I want to say one thing. I did find it interesting that Luke, I really like Luke. He seems like a really nice guy. That topic of, like, naturalism, supernaturalism, God being able to work within the natural world, but having some omnipotent aspect. I think he gave the example of a parent, like, a parent does one thing for their child, but another thing for child. I thought that, just my own personal perspective, that to me, there was kind of a contradiction there that I didn't want to pursue it too much, but I didn't really think that I thought there was a conflict there with that topic.
What was the conflict?
That remember we were talking about, like, the issue of supernaturalism, and I was sensing that what Luke was saying was that God constructed the world in such a way that eventually we will be able to explain things naturally. And I was like, well, so are you saying that everything eventually be able to explain naturally? But what about the thing, like, is God omnipotent and able to act outside of nature? Those two things kind of conflict with each other. And He gave the example of, like, a parent. Like, a parent does, like, he used some parent example, and I didn't think that really. Yeah,
he ties into this divine hiddenness in the way that God is basically giving us only part of the story, because we would never understand it if we weren't allowed to figure it out for ourselves, that sort of thing. And I don't know. That's
Yeah.
Which is
That's kind of a-
why I would have loved to come in a little bit earlier, because you did talk about you touched on Noah's flood at some point.
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think
And
he.
what he didn't say is that Noah's flood was copied from the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Well,
Most
he
likely
implied it
to
when he
draw-
talked about.
Yeah, he kind of said that.
Yeah, he implied it.
Well, but that was most likely done to draw in people from the pagan religion, which is
Which is fair. If you
basically
want to.
what Christianity has done since its inception, drawing in stuff from other religions in order to win people over.
Yeah. Hey, I have to check on a raccoon problem. Hang on.
God,
You
got
feed
the
him too
raccoon
much.
problem.
That's the problem. He
Ah.
doesn't like it when I point out how fat his raccoons are, because
Got more,
I think
he's got more,
I think he
more
knows it's his responsibility.
raccoon-related problems than he thinks.
You ever seen that video? Everybody, you guys have probably seen that video of the guy who feeds the hot dogs to the raccoons.
Yeah, he's got like a 24-hour cam or something.
Yeah, that's crazy. One day those raccoons are gonna attack him. They're gonna be like, they're gonna be big, huge, fat ass raccoons.
Mhm.
They're gonna like be like 20 of them. They're gonna like mob him.
You see, they make these Planet of the Apes movies, but those damn raccoons are pretty bipedal. I mean, they can grab stuff and run on
Mhm.
2 feet. It may be Planet of the Raccoons if we're not careful.
I wouldn't doubt that. Oh my God. I was just reading the side chat about Danny.
There's some ongoing disagreements. Can you believe it?
Yeah, well, he does evoke a reaction.
Well, no, but like Jay has been having an ongoing argument with who is it? I forget who he's talking to, but
The freak.
yeah, maybe it's the freak, and those are pretty straightforward. Nothing too personal or venomous, I don't think. Maybe Jay disagrees.
Do you guys know?
I used to think I used to
sorry.
think the freak was a troll. Recently, I found out that you can actually have a good conversation with him. So,
Have you guys ever
I've
had
been
Sydney
encouraging him.
Winston come in? Have you ever had Sydney Winston come in here?
Once
yes,
or twice.
yes.
Okay.
He's,
Okay.
he's been in the room.
Okay.
What
Just
do you think
curious.
of Sydney?
Yeah, I like Sydney. I've been on his stream.
I
I've
do
been on the
too.
stream before.
I think he's interesting.
Yeah.
Until I chased you off. I
Oh my
remember
God,
that.
that's right. Peter was there. That was funny, and it was Jill.
Yeah.
It was Jill, me,
Yeah.
and Peter for a while, and that was hilarious.
I came in hot and swinging,
Yeah, you did.
and,
Danny-
you were your usual kind
I was
self,
trying to be. Yeah, I was trying to be deferential.
trying to have a good conversation with Jill, and I basically ruined that, and I never apologized for that. So
Nah, it's all good. Yeah, no, you don't need to
hereby
apologize.
I officially apologize.
No,
But
no,
Speed, why didn't you send Cy Gart a link?
I did.
A good
he-
conversation with Jill
Oh.
sounds
Yeah,
oxymoronic.
he can't make it tonight.
tell me about it.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You know, he did. Speaking of Sygart, he did a really great, announcement or whatever about the COVID vaccine. I'm really sad that he got such a negative reaction for it.
Oh, by the way, Jason, how long ago was that? Do you think?
With
Maybe
Jill?
2 months? Yeah.
Yeah, it probably would have been a couple months ago. Sydney
Yeah,
might know,
I think-
but yeah.
I think it was last week that he made a response video.
Oh,
me.
he did? Oh my God,
Yes.
that's hilarious. Where'd he post it?
On his channel, Rebuke
Oh.
and Reprove.
It was
About
that.
the remember that I asked him about contemporary Roman historians mentioning Jesus,
Yeah, yeah.
and then he came up with a guy who was Greek. He responded to that after a
What's-
while the Romans conquered Greece, so basically that made him a Roman historian. I then listened back to part of the conversation that we had on, well, if you can call it a conversation, the shouting match that we had on Sidney Winston's channel, and I said an historian from Rome. So a Roman isn't necessarily from Rome. So he got that wrong too. And that took him
SFT
2 months to come up with.
SFT and Gavin apparently. I don't know. I would have to see that. Erica mentioned something, called him a cocksucker. SFT and Gavin and that whole group, they really get on each other occasionally. It's pretty interesting. It's funny.
Who called who a cocksucker?
I think SFT called Gavin a cocksucker and hung up or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm thinking. Yeah, SFT called Gavin a cocksucker. That's what I'm getting.
I love it when the Christians go at each other. You know, it's pretty
I
cool.
find that really funny.
Yeah.
Usually
Anyway.
it's Gavin coming out with the insult.
Yeah. Yeah, Smokey came into Gur's stream last night. He was trying to talk to Leo, and that didn't go very well.
Oh
It
yeah,
was,
yeah. He was saying something about well, I think he kept throwing out slavery was moral.
is that what he? No, I thought
Or is that a di-
I
different
have no
thing?
idea. He was he was trying to talk to Leo about how using differentiation didn't have explanatory power or something like that, and Leo wouldn't let him talk. So eventually, Smokey just buzzed off. But
I must
Leo
have
kept-
left. I must not have been
Okay.
there.
Yeah, it was something else. Yeah.
Oh
It
yeah.
was something else. But I thought Leo should have shut the hell up and listened a little bit and had a dialogue with him instead of I don't know.
Did you hear Dr. Josh came on for a little bit, and so
Yes.
I was like, Dr. Josh, got to talk about promoting slavery. What's up with that, man? And he went on a long diatribe about that. So it's
Yeah, he had a really good explanation for the difference
Yeah.
between promoting it and
endorsing.
endorsing, and
Yeah.
promoting,
Yeah.
that was quite good. I thought
Yeah.
that was great.
Yeah,
You guys
I'm
wanna
glad
li-
I caught that section of it.
Pete,
you wanna-
can I suggest that when you put something on screen, you explain it to the people, because the freaks in the side chat asking if that's Nephilim free.
No, that's Sygart. Okay, so Sygart was at a conference and Capturing Christianity taped a 5-minute or 4-minute video, 4 minutes and 11 seconds of Sygart talking about the vaccine, about why you should get vaccinated. And he's had 4,000 ugly comments and 2.1K dislikes compared to 1.K dislikes. If you want to hear it?
Pete, play the thing first.
All right, but before you play it, notice that the title is "You've Been Lied To," says Christian Biochemist. It's interesting because it's almost
Clickbaity.
It is. It's very clickbaity.
Yeah, well, you got 41,000 views. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll play it.
Hi, Gart. I'm a
Oh,
retired
damn. I can't. You guys can hear it, but I can't.
biochemist. I've worked at several universities and at the NIH. And I want to talk to you about vaccines. I'm a Christian. I'm a lay leader in my Methodist church. I converted to Christianity some time ago and was baptized later in life. But I want to talk to you about vaccines because this is an urgent issue in our time right now, and there is some misunderstanding and misconceptions about vaccines. Now, I have to say I'm not a virologist. I'm not a person who's expert in vaccines, but I was a professor of public health for many years. And I do know something about epidemiology, and I am following the literature as carefully as I can. This pandemic is very serious. It's certainly the most serious pandemic I know of in my lifetime. And we need to be very careful going forward that we're able to protect ourselves, our families, our children, and of course, our society as a whole. And although the vaccines are not perfect, you may have read recently that there are cases of people who've been vaccinated who have gotten the disease, and that's true. But they are, at the moment, the best tool we have to control the pandemic. There are some rumors spreading, especially on social media, some of them by people who are not being completely honest, to be honest with you. that there are things about the vaccines that should cause Christians to avoid them. The idea that they are made from fetal cells, that they contain the mark of the beast, that they are in some way dangerous. None of these things are true. And instead, the reality is that vaccines are extremely effective. The mRNA vaccines in particular, which are most of the ones that we get here in the US. And they are not dangerous, they are not harmful, they have no effect on fertility. This is all the results of many, many studies using millions of people. Now, it's not a golden panacea, because right now we have a Delta variant, which seems to be able to infect some people who've already been vaccinated. But we do know that even when those people are infected, the course of their disease is much less severe than it is among those who have not been vaccinated. So in conclusion, we're not out of the woods. We have a long way to go, and hopefully some therapies will come along that will help. But at this point in time, with the Delta variant and possibly now the Lambda variant starting to spread, vaccines are the best tool we have, not just to protect your own personal health and safety, but to protect the health and safety of everyone. And as Christians, we have a duty, we have a commandment to love our neighbors, to help our neighbors. And the best way to do that is to get vaccinated. It will help you, it will help your children, your family, your loved ones, and it will help all the neighbors and all the strangers you come across in your daily life. And together, as a nation, as a people, we can stop this pandemic if we ignore the lies we're being told, and we know who the great liar is. If we ignore those lies and focus on the truth, we can stop it, and we can return to the kind of what now seems like paradisical life that we led before this all began. Thank you for your attention.
Who's the great liar?
Pretty cool. I'm not sure what he meant by that. I don't know if he meant Trump or it was either Trump or Satan, but they're about the same thing, aren't they?
Probably Satan.
I don't know, but anyway, yeah. But anyway, I thought that was for that he got all kinds of hate, like from like a lot of hate to the point where it's really kind of freaked him out.
You know, that wonderful hate that only Christian love can give you.
Yep. Yeah. Anyway.
Midnight
right here.
Midnight's here.
Yeah, what's up?
I can barely see him on this white screen.
Oh, you sound very upbeat, Midnight. What has happened?
Nothing. I just took a kind of a nap.
You got a link. You should rejoice. You
I got a link, but you know what's funny? You want to know what's funny? Danny actually sent me a link also on Discord. So I was like, wait, why is Danny sending me a link?
I don't
know. Because it was posted in chat.
Yeah, I know. That's what I clicked to get in here. Thanks, Scott.
But,
you're very welcome.
Yeah. Oh wait, I think we talked about that earlier. Danny always needs a person who he can bounce off of, and if he sends you a link, knowing that you want to come in here, you're probably the person that
he picked you.
Bounce off of.
I'll be right back. I'm gonna have to give Danny a break from like I'm gonna have to spit on that shit before I come back to it. So.
Okay. Well, I did see
Midnight.
I did see Nickel. Hold on.
You know what that makes you, right? You know what that makes you, right? You are now officially the chosen one.
The chosen one.
Right.
I didn't realize.
As I was saying, I was looking through chat a little bit, and I saw Nicola here beating the shit out of Danny for the billionth time.
I think Nicola is the vaccine I've been looking for against Danny.
Yes.
No, he didn't keep Danny away. You did, Speed. You're the vaccine.
Oh yeah, well I did boot him, but
you're the immune system of this channel.
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't Nicola be the guard dog to the channel?
Oh yeah, Pitbull. He's my pit bull. Yeah, I'm putting him on speed dial. So, guys, now
No,
that midnight's
listen.
here, we should shoot it in the head.
Well,
By the
okay,
way,
why?
by the way, Midnight, you missed one thing. I'm officially trolling Speed. So
I mean, when did you stop?
check.
When
check,
did you
check
not?
Discord? No,
When
no,
did you
hold
not
on.
troll
check,
me?
check Discord.
Okay, I'm
I don't-
about to
Oh,
check
Peter.
So
Discord.
all of us can have fun. Watching
I'm never going to
Speed
look at
figure out
Discord,
what I did.
Peter.
I'm not telling.
Oh, look at this.
So isn't Discord that platform where everybody
I'll
else has
debate
mod power
Nicola
but you?
anytime. He'd get.
That's what I'm talking.
Danny, back off. Okay, back off.
Oh God, that's
There's
like
no
a
way you will ever win against Nicola. Okay,
I think
I'm
Danny's
not
out of
I'm not
his
trying
league.
to. Yeah, well, yeah, you know, like, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not trying to upplay Nicola, but I'm not trying to downplay. Danny, back off. Okay, no.
God, you guys are so afraid of Danny.
What?
So in Discord, that's a platform, right? And you go into a room and everybody has mod powers but you, and then they take turns booting you from the server.
What?
That's how I've observed it to work.
No, that's Darth Dawkins server, not
so
not
he's
everyone
not
else's server.
representative?
No,
Okay, well, because that's what
but
I kind of thought.
but if you want to shoot it in the head, so we could talk off air, that would be good. I mean, it's your stream Speed. You can do whatever the fuck you want. You could, you could even boot everybody out and just, I don't know, dance silly. I don't know. I'm fucking. Well, I'm not even high, but
I found a picture of Danny that I want to share with everybody.
oh god, is it the gimp suit one? Wait,
Uh,
I don't think Peter ever made that one.
the resolution isn't very good, but it's definitely Danny. This is Danny going up against Nicola.
Ah,
That's a cute puppy.
Oh my god.
I want that puppy.
Yeah, that definitely is. But no. That puppy's too cute to be Danny. Like, it needs to be some ugly abomination.
That's my favorite picture. I used to use that as an icon back in
Aw.
2004.
That's
think.
adorable. That's fucking
Yeah.
adorable.
Angry little puppy.
Dang, my carpets are.
To be fair, Danny might move to Canada, knowing that he's got his own holiday there.
Wait, what? What is a Danny holiday?
Went over my head.
Yeah. It's advertised on the back of buses in Canada.
Oh,
Yeah.
you're talking about.
Oh, you just kicked him. You just because he said he tries to join, but you kicked him.
Yeah.
I keep kicking people. I don't know why. It's just I've got a bit of the palsy in my right hand, a bit of the palsy, and I don't mean to do it. Jesus weenie. Yeah. I can't help it.
Speed. By the way, you know why Danny doesn't have debates in real life?
Why?
Because he can't stand people talking down on him.
I'm not
I
angry.
was a
you are for not
sacrifice,
letting-
oh.
Okay. So I don't understand this, Danny. I don't understand your argument here.
A
Can you
coward.
explain this to me? I'm not angry. You are for not letting me in.
Yeah,
Guess
Danny,
you're
that doesn't
mad
really.
that you didn't let him in. Is that what you're saying? You're mad you didn't let him in.
Yeah.
I do want to talk to Jason a bit, like a bit off air, but
Well,
I can wait.
I don't understand what you're talking about, Danny, because we don't talk anymore.
Midnight's
So how
crushing
the
on
fuck-
Sounds strangely sexual.
What was that, Scott?
I said Midnight is crushing on Jason.
Yeah, I said that's strangely sexual.
Midnight, I can give you my Grinder account. You can hit me up over there.
Well, I mean, look, with that jawline, that jawline, like how can I not hate on him? Look at that, like a fucking Superman over here.
Omega Man. I'm Omega Man.
You mean Omni Man?
Omni Man. Oh my God, yeah. Omega
Have you watched
Man.
the entire series?
Yes.
I did. I just finished
The whole
it.
season?
Oh, so good.
Now, wasn't there another live action superhero series? Something about Jupiter?
I
I forget.
I don't know.
He's like an old man, and he's got kids who have superpowers.
Oh yeah, that's like, but that's not animated.
No, yeah, it's a live action.
It's live action. I haven't seen that. I looked at it and I was like,
Jason.
I can't watch it.
What is that one?
Jason,
What is it?
Jason,
Jupiter's
aren't you
Legacy.
a
Jupiter's Legacy.
geologist?
No, that's
yeah.
Oakway.
I mean, I have a master's in geology, but I'm not a practicing geologist. Go ahead.
Then your superhero name should be Rock Hard.
Fuck you, Peter.
I'm gonna kick Peter now.
Yes, go ahead. Kick Peter out, the troll.
I think we should shoot it ahead, guys.
Now midnight will have dreams for at least a week.
It's 10 o'clock, so I'm going to shoot it ahead. What do you
Not
think?
10 o'clock. It's 4:45.
Yeah, you should go to fucking bed, Peter. You're going to die. Christ.
It'll be your fault. It'll be your fault. And when I'm dead, I'll still be able to troll you. And you'll figure it out one day.
If I ever go on Discord, which I never will, so I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
No. You don't have to go on Discord.
God damn you, Peter. Okay, I'm shooting it in the head, guys.
Okay.
Anybody
Right
object?
ahead, sir.
Do a search on YouTube.
Oh, for
That's
Christ's
all I can
sake.
say.
You getting sleepy, girl? You getting sleepy?
Goodbye, cruel world.
Bye.
Ah.